Ready? I will call this December 4th, 2024 meeting to order. Anthony will lead us in pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't have a pulpit up.
Here, just take it.
I'm
I'm going through the motions. Eddie or? Split up.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the exonerations presented this morning.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That's so many.
And then we get the older from where they're doing the collections now, there's some of them out of that. It's older taxes that weren't going to.
You got payroll. I make a motion to approve. Hold on, is it, that's all we have today from you, all right? Okay.
Once you go, we're going to discuss the other.
The case that the individual brought up, we have not, it's not an exoneration, so we don't have enough public notice to discuss it today. Probably.
Speaking.
All right,
You don't care about calling.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve payroll 12/13/24 to 12/27/24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
After the invoices, anybody got any questions?
I just want to make sure, like, we keep seeing these truck payoffs show up. I don't want to do any truck payoffs till we look at them all together and decide what we're gonna do.
I agree.
I think we need to take a look at the big picture and decide which ones we want to pay off, and which ones we don't.
Yeah, I
Based on the
agree.
levy
Pay for it, huh?
balances.
Free.
And that's the case, and I want to say this, if we did accidentally vote on the ones that we've seen the past couple of meetings. I mean, I had emailed Ruth and said, asked her to make sure that Gia didn't pay those. Until we discussed it again, because I don't think anybody realized that was part of what we might have approved. So, see what else this is.
Not only that, if they pay them off, or they just trade them in or sell them,
Yeah,
then where's the money go?
we need to know more about what's going on with all that. So,
I think the people want to know where their money's being returned to and where it goes. If they do sell them,
I agree with that.
been my issue the whole time, not knowing where the funding's going.
I don't know what all these reimbursements are. I mean, I see reimbursement requests, but I don't see what their reimbursement requests are for. Got like $12,000 for one fire department. Another one has 5,000. One has 28,000.
Yeah, I love about that. What do you want to do that before you write it?
I do. I mean, I'm sure everybody does.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I think we could do it today. I just want to see it. So can we postpone that item?
Don't have a problem. Make a motion to postpone.
Just till the end of the
Okay,
meeting.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for 12th, 14th, and 19th.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Josh Davis has a charger purchase request on here, the vouchers and invoices.
Yeah, we bid out. Okay. We bid out the chargers, gas alarms, all that stuff. A few months ago, got them, everything's working good. But I screwed up when I bid them out, and we bid out 2 cameras, but 1 charger. That was my fault.
So you needed another charger for the
Needed.
other camera.
Needed another charger, they're $685 a piece, so it'd be like 10,960.
Okay,
There's money in that, the account that we purchased those from, to get that, yes, I
I
think
move
we
that we
purchased all
approve it.
that out of that, so.
I move that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, John.
State? Oh. And we didn't need the minutes. yet.
Yeah, I didn't see any.
What is
You
it?
did approve
The state
the
settlement?
state.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, we already.
Yeah, I signed it and everything. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
I see
state
it.
settlement, sorry. I signed in paper.
All right, I move that we, I move that we approve the estate settlements.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Friend of mine is in there.
Okay, I'm signing. Ruth? Yeah, clock's right.
Delinquent titles are not.
I don't think our clock is right. I just glanced up. This. Oh, yeah.
No, that's definitely not
Well,
right.
it's time to go home with that.
7 after.
Okay. I just, all right.
I like that one better. Delinquent tax certifications. Terry.
Good morning.
Have the delinquent tax certification for the auditor. So I just need this one to be signed, and this can stay with the county clerk, and then I'll get my copies back from Michelle.
Is it up or down?
I think it went down. I think we had less certified this year than we did last year.
Okay.
I remember the book being thicker last year.
And then speaking of delinquent, what did that company collect already?
14,000.
And then quite a couple of weeks.
That's pretty cool.
Very nice.
No motion to approve.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye. keep going, Ruth.
Yeah, keep going, roll. I have to go.
Grant amendment 5 is. Leslie, here, or is she on my phone? Is she on there?
Good morning.
Good morning, Leslie. How was Thanksgiving this year?
It was great. We had our biggest year ever. We served 3,201 meals.
Wonderful. The refrigerator and freezer worked out, then I take it.
Yes, the refrigerator was so much of a help. It gave us so much more space to be able to store things for the Thanksgiving meal. This year we actually did not run out of space.
It's wonderful.
So this morning I have for you grant amendment number 5, and this is related to the Armstrong PSD Fountain Water Tank Replacement Project, for which the commission received a community development block grant for. That
Mhm.
construction is expected to be completed by the end of the year, but there are some administrative paperwork that has to be done afterwards. And we don't believe that we can have that completed by the end of the administrative paperwork complete by the end of the year. So we've asked for an extension. And the West Virginia Department of Economic Development has given us extension until June 30th, as long as you all agree to it.
See no reason not to.
How long do we need? I mean, what, is this stopping something from being repaired? Like, I don't understand the full implications of this.
What the grant period currently expires on December 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So if the construction is finished by that time, that leaves no time to do the administrative paperwork, the final performance report, process final pay applications, or anything of that nature. So what we originally asked for was 90 days. But our project manager at the West Virginia Department of Economic Development said that 6 months would be better because that would take us through the end of the fiscal year in case there were any unforeseen events.
Okay, but construction is just going to proceed as on schedule.
That's correct.
Okay, I agree with you, John. Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wherever it is for your name.
Okay. Resolution 10 for Armstrong Creek.
So this morning, we also have resolution 10. This is for the same project that we just discussed, the Powelton Water Tank project. We have invoices from CJ Hughes Construction, which is the contractor that is working on the tank. $187,372.71. And also Region 4 Planning and Development Council for $1,399.84 for a total of $188,772.55. This has already been approved by Armstrong PSD, but with the commission as the grantee, the commission also has to approve this.
No issues on this. I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
I don't think we've identified somebody for the planning commission. Is Josh still here?
He stepped out, he'll be back.
Did he? Let's see if he's interested in still serving. So we don't have a draft letter, I take it. For the legislature regarding the summit.
But I think you should approve it in concept.
Yeah, we need to do both because the other one didn't go either.
I thought we already approved it.
That was the one to the,
To the chamber.
so I'll draft something that looks a lot like what we sent before. With updated data and circulate it. Before we send it, but I'm gonna move that we approve sending a letter. The letter we're required to send to the legislature before the end of the year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, no, right after the meeting.
Okay, so next is is there anything to sign, Amy, for the people grant?
No,
Okay,
it's
So-
just approving it.
yeah, this is just you guys approving it, non-pro tunc, it's already been submitted, it's the one that offsets the cost of the water control officer.
So sometimes we have things that don't require financial commitment that have deadlines that are before our meetings, so we approve them after the fact. And the commission president signs them in advance, and this is one of those things it's just accepting a grant. And I move that we approve it, not for dunk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is the courthouse facilities improvement authority contract, this is the one, yeah, you guys approved, this is accepting the grant, basically, is this for the tile, Amy?
Yes, and there should be a checklist also for him to sign.
So I move that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is the initial each line and sign at the bottom checklist.
Yep.
General school transfer.
Yep. So it is $67,321
Tom,
8
Tom,
cents.
Tom. You have to initial every one of those lines.
I move
Sorry.
that we approve it, the school transfer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And I think we're going to need to wait on,
It's about time.
I want to suggest that we set our first meeting for January, and then we can work on the calendar. Once, Trey gets sworn in.
The only one you can't change are in February because we're already sent it. to the
Well, I
state.
think we can approve January. Actually, the only ones, it wasn't until May that I had any
Okay,
concern, so let's
January.
January through April. Cause those we have to
That's
do.
when you're approving.
Yeah, so I'm gonna move that we approve the recommended calendar for January through April.
And that includes the holiday list, whatever the governor.
I'll do a
State.
separate motion for that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, and then I move that we adopt whatever holidays that the state recognizes, including the last minute ones. For the year twenty
All in
25.
favor?
Aye.
All right. Who's here for the CODA?
Coda.
Coda Academy.
You come on up.
After.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm here with
our
Your
associate-
wonderful things about your program. You actually worked with some kids from there recently.
Awesome. I'm here with our associate director, Matt Evans, and our general program coordinator, Eric Snuffer. It has been an absolute joy to be able to work with children of Fayette County since 2007. And I think we all know that our community is in crisis. The US Census Bureau numbers are that over half of the grandparents in West Virginia are raising their grandkids. That's the average in West Virginia, maybe worse than Fayette County. And that means these kids' parents are either in jail or on drugs or dead. I see that all the time with the kids that we work with. We work with the most vulnerable population for the most part, although all children are welcome. That sets up a vicious cycle of poverty and drugs, abuse, neglect, which then leads to trauma in the classroom, which leads to lower academic performance, which leads to burned out teachers. It's just a domino effect. Our kids are bewildered, they're traumatized, and they don't have a place to belong. So CODA's response is to create a family, to create a place to belong, to create a place to gain skills that they normally wouldn't be taught, and to remove all the access barriers. We're so grateful for the support of Fayette County Schools, grateful to our superintendent, Gary Hogue, and the team who have made it possible for us to access busing and meals. And so kids can come to our after-school programs for free and receive busing to their homes. And our summer camps, they are bused, picked up at their homes and brought to the camps. Many kids would never be able to access these programs if it wasn't for that. So CODA, just to show you how busy we are right now, we do 11 programs between Monday and Friday in 7 locations for 25 weeks during the school year. So you can imagine all the different teams that are working together, all the different managers of each program, site coordinators. In the summer, we have 4 weeks of summer camp. And last summer, we served 240 children, unduplicated. We started in 2007. And we were just a music camp. My son was 16. He started playing the violin. You might remember, John. He started playing the violin when he was 2. And he practiced in his diapers. And when he was 16, he was accepted at the Cleveland Institute of Music with the concertmaster of the Cleveland Orchestra as his teacher. And that summer, we decided to start a little music camp. We didn't know what we were doing. And somebody loaned us an old cinder block building in Bradley. And the bunks were creaky and nobody got paid. It ended up being an awesome camp. Even though my son, who was 16, was the director and I was working for him, I was trying to develop his leadership skills. And it was so wonderful that we wanted to do it again. Well, the next year he started bringing back his friends from Cleveland Institute of Music they were working on their master's or doctor's degrees, and the camp went up a notch. And that by 2010, I decided to actually start paying people. And I didn't know how to write a grant, so I just wore myself out trying to raise money, to make this camp work. Before long, because of Charles's friends who, after a while, had master's, doctor's degrees, were all over the United States, they would fly in. The camp was high caliber, took 2 weeks overnight, and it was changing lives, because not only did kids that were in college degree programs attend and challenged, but this camp accommodated our at-risk children who could hardly play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And there were tracks for all of them. It was one big family. It was pretty remarkable. So now we ended up, after 11 years, not being able to fund it. And so now we replaced it with day camps, which are very powerful. But CODA's on a journey, and I think about this. there's 3 dams holding back disaster from the at-risk child. One is the schools, one is the foster care system, and one is the grandparents. The first 2 walls are nearly breaching. You know, schools are facing tremendous challenges they've never had to face before. There's a lot of trauma in the classroom and it's hard to get teachers. The foster care system is impossibly overwhelmed and sometimes not even safe. And the grandparents, just by attrition, are going to be gone and not able to serve this role in just 5 to 10 years. So I believe that we are in a crisis and an emergency. We don't have time to wait. We have to throw everything that we have into saving enough of this generation that we'll have leaders, that will have people who can stabilize our society in the next season. We ask ourselves, if not us, who? Are we waiting on Superman to come and save us? And if not now, when? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good.
I can remember Dakota marching up and down the rail trail and over at the string band festivals and everything else. I mean, they started out awful small and it really grew quickly. The after school program, Allison, we had a chance to talk with the robotics team. And they went to, what was it, this past week?
This coming weekend, they'll be competing again.
This weekend.
2 years ago, our robotics team was 3rd in the state. And last year we were 2nd in the state.
Yeah, this year we're hoping.
This year they're trying to go for first.
Yeah.
So that's Saturday. And 3 years ago, they got to travel to New Jersey to compete. They were, in a real big competition. And last year to Boston. And so we have to raise the money for all of
How
that.
did the New Jersey competition go? Because we talked to them right before that.
They held their own. They were about in the middle. And you're talking about national,
Right. And international students too. Right?
and international student, yes. And so they were about in the middle. So I thought they held their own really well.
And they have a chance to go to Houston this year.
Yeah.
They held their own with us, that's for sure,
Yeah.
because they had some hard questions for us. We didn't have good answers for a lot of them. So I was really impressed with those kids. Love to see them more often. If they have anything going on, they're welcome to come in
Well, thank you. Thank you.
and talk to us.
The beautiful thing about our robotics program is the WeDo robot is accessible to the learning disabled child. And to the at-risk child that has trouble learning or focusing because it's the programming is icon-based, picture-based, drag and drop, but you're still developing all that logic. And you build with pictures and it's self-directed, and so it's self-paced. Every child in the room is working at their own pace. But as they work up through that and gain confidence, it's amazing. The first program we started was at Oak Hill Middle in 2014 with the learning disabled class. We started our first WeDo Lego program and they knocked it out of the park. My staff didn't even know they were learning disabled. Afterwards, they were like, I said, boy, those learning disabled kids, they just knocked it out of the park. They said, well, we haven't taught any learning disabled kids. So, but the neat thing is that it grabs the kids, helps them succeed at a very accessible level, and then they can go all the way up to competitive and travel. So it's just a beautiful stair step.
Yeah, that's very cool. Where is the brick and mortar location?
Oh, that's a story too. We are in an office building that used to be a picnic shelter. So if you know where
Maybe a decent sized one.
you have to come see it. It is so beautiful. But you know where Med Express is? Right across the 4-lane is the Baptist church with the green roof. Right next to that is a brown building. It used to be a picnic shelter. You remember that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and now it has this beautiful great room, which is open office, and then it has a private office. It has a studio for where kids learn violin, piano, and cello 3 days a week. And it has storage and it has a kitchenette and bathrooms. When the mission teams built it for free, and the Baptist church gave it to us.
That's great, yeah.
And it's really beautiful. And so when it was first being built, they built the middle first and then this wing second. It took about 4 years. So we had to pop a porta potty. This side was roughed in. We had a red porta potty just popped in the side for about a year while we had our offices there. And now we have handicap accessible bathrooms.
Wonderful. What about your summer camp? Is that at the same facility? Or
It is at Christ Fellowship on Maple Avenue. We have Christ Fellowship in that building that used to be the Learning Centers, and that we now rent that other building. So between those two, it's like a campus. We have our camps. We can only hold about 90 kids. So the Fine Arts Camp keeps outgrowing that. So we now are at 3 weeks with the Fine Arts Camp.
Is there anything that you need from the commission?
We could use funding. This December 31st, we're losing about $70,000 a year of funding from the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. They would have loved to have kept funding us, but they have rules that they can only fund so long. And so funding would be very helpful.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We go ahead and move to 9:30.
Yeah. That's a family resource network payroll service issue. Yeah, would you please? I mentioned to them what you told me before the meeting, but if you want to go ahead and.
That's fine, yeah. I didn't want to get in your space. I saw you. Yeah, I appreciate you all discussing it earlier. But if a transition is something that we all see happening at some point, I'm good to transition come January 1st.
Yeah, and I've asked Diane to come back to us with any funding requests.
Right.
I
don't think that's something we
to
can
help
do
with
right
the
now.
transition.
Yeah.
So, and she's gonna try to monetize that a little more and then we
Yeah.
can consider it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have a number to
Okay.
even guess right now, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, sounds good.
Okay, yeah, that was easy. I'll work with Ruth and Gia. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I might want to take a quick time out because I don't think I have a printed copy of something I need.
Well, we got, how long do you want it?
10 minutes.
Okay, good.
We have 10, right?
Yeah, we got 15 minutes actually.
Well, if we get 10, then we'll be back in 15.
Well, I'll be back in 10, we'll be back in 20. All right, let's call the meeting back to order. Did Ruth leave? on?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I guess,
We'll just
I want to start with ARPA funding or wait on Rick.
Well, let's go back to vouchers and invoices really.
Oh,
quickly.
did you get the information?
So other than the truck stuff, there is a 2,850 under Mount Hopes for engineering that they haven't brought through. And I explained to Josh that I don't want to get in a situation where fire departments are commissioning engineering for a project without presenting the project to the commission to see whether there's interest in funding the project. Unless our municipalities are going to fund the whole thing, but I don't want to pay for engineering either toward projects we haven't heard anything about. So Josh is going to get more information on that project for us, but I do think we should approve all the other vouchers and invoices except for that $2,850 for engineering that Mount Hope submitted.
Is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd also like to make a motion because we have several invoices and bills that come in. Anything under $15,000 that Ruth has the approval to go ahead and pay so that we're not holding up money going out to our vendors, whether it's a water bill, electric bill, whatever. Because we won't have another meeting till January.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that. Second.
But we already implemented that a long time.
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, we just don't write checks. The only thing I would say is somebody else has to approve law enforcement.
Me,
I thought we did that a long time ago, so.
yeah.
Still wanna
I-
make a
I
motion
thought so
for it?
too. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Because we
We
did,
don't write checks outside, of the meeting, so
but
that's the difference. It would be a check outside. of the meeting.
Okay, so I'm fine with that. I move that we approve Ruth's ability to do that based on Don's recommendation.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye. And just to be clear, my motion did not include that fire truck payoff. Those are gonna be accepted until we get them all together.
All right, moving on. Ruth, how was you want to do this? We want to hear from Oak Hill?
I would approve to make this here.
Amelia, do you want to come up and talk? Give us a spiel.
Okay, as you may know or have already heard that the comprehensive plan consultant that we picked was considerably lower than the amount that I had asked for. So I would like to reallocate that money with your permission to some hubcap. We're in the hubcap program with Montgomery and Smithers. And so I'd like to reallocate that money to a couple of programs that they have going that we would like to participate in. And so Stacy Henderson is here to tell you about those and how that works.
My first question is, will the money be spent before 2026?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, good morning, Commission. I'm Stacy Henderson. I am the Community Coaching Programs Director at the West Virginia Community Development Hub. I've been before you guys before. I'm working with Oak Hill, Smithers, and Montgomery in our HubCap program, which is a 27-month program. We're about 2/3 of the way through. I've been working with these communities since March of 2023. And so now we're to the point where they're selecting their projects, and all of them have projects that are pretty aligned. And so Smithers and Montgomery had already decided to have a joint project around their identity process, branding, and wayfinding. Basically in support of the New River Gorge National Park, determining what opportunities they have to leverage outdoor recreation, and then just to be in support of that industry. And just have some plans for how they want to move forward. When Oak Hill changed how the comp plan they were going to go with, it presented the opportunity to include Oak Hill in that, because some of the things that aren't in the current comp plan that they're moving forward with are some of the things that they wanted to address with the branding, identity, wayfinding. So there's the opportunity, which I think is a unique and special opportunity for Oak Hill, Smithers, and Montgomery to work together cohesively with the same consultant. We've selected Destination by Design to create a plan that would be for the Valley and the Plateau, and kind of bring some unity to these three communities in terms of what they're able to do with the consultant. So we'll just say with our process with the consultant for Smithers and Montgomery, we put out an RFP and received eight proposals to do these services. We fully vetted those proposals, interviewed 4 of them, and then selected Destination by Design for a couple of reasons. They've worked in West Virginia before and are really interested in working with these communities. So what the project would be is helping each of the communities really determine what their identity is, particularly for Smithers and Montgomery, with the loss of WVU Tech and some of their changes with their economic drivers. They feel like they don't know who they are. Oak Hill has had a lot of positive changes with the New River Gorge designation. And so I feel like they are, trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into things as well. So it'll be the opportunity for that, and then to develop some plans for the marketing and branding of those areas with the assets that they have and assets that are going to be developed, as well as the wayfinding. So wayfinding is obviously important to help visitors and residents find the things that, investments are being made in. So the total plan for all this would include, we had already had
a contract for Smithers and Montgomery for $65,000 to do their identity branding and wayfinding. Oak Hill would be $45,000, which is a significant discount because the consultant gave us a discount since they were already working with Smithers and Montgomery. Then there's the opportunity for $30,000 to add a regional wayfinding, really for kind of the Route 60 corridor and basically this whole, I don't know, I guess Eastern is not this general part of Fayette County. I don't think it would extend necessarily to like Mount Hope or Meadow Bridge, but kind of the Route 60 corridor and around the bridge, some of the gateway communities. So if you're doing the math along with me, that's $140,000. Each of the communities contributes some as well, and then the hub gives $20,000. So I know that you guys have allocated funds to Oak Hill. So basically, we would be asking for a reallocation for the county to provide $80,000 in support of all three communities for the identity branding wayfinding and the regional wayfinding. At our last group session where we bring all of our communities in this program together, we heard from the West Virginia Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative about the growth of outdoor recreation in West Virginia, what a driver that already is and what it's going to be. OEDC will be working with us in this as we identify the assets. And really, I think it's going to help solidify some of the things that are already happening and look for opportunities for growth areas in the next 5 to 10 years for these communities. We'll also be working with NRG RDA. Andy Davis has been part of our team, the folks at the app. So I think we have a really unique opportunity here to just create a lot of collaboration and cohesion between these three communities. They're making an investment, the hub's making an investment, and so together we can really create a unique project for the communities. Our timeline is that work would wrap up by June of 2025. So with me your ARPA requirements with that, and we'll establish a committee and move the work through the committee, but also with having public engagement events as well. So, if there's a lot of information and numbers that y'all, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have some questions. What interest have our other municipalities, or have you reached out to any of them to see if they're interested in joining this collaboration?
We haven't. We were working with those three communities, and since we were providing the technical assistance to them, we can certainly talk to the consultant and see what availability they would have to work with any other municipalities, but we were focused on the three that we were working in right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I was talking with someone else about this morning. I want my colleagues to know what I know. What you're working on is some sort of comprehensive branding for the area, right? And to advertise and to get people in and.
Somewhat in planning. Yeah.
Okay, so can you be more specific? Are we talking about our trail planning, or what are we talking about?
So through this, they'll look at the potential assets that exist, and then from there could be additional plans for how to develop and utilize those assets. So an example would be the trail development that conversations that are happening in Smithers. Mary Cavalier's here. She's been working on the Longacre property and received some earmarks for that. So some of our work will be collaborative with Mary Cavalier and some of the things she's doing at Longacre. So it'll take all the projects that are currently happening in all the communities and look at basically what the opportunity that is currently there, and then any gaps to expand those opportunities further. So I think we'll be trying to leverage additional funding. I'm not saying we're going to come back to the county for that. We help our communities try to leverage additional funding to put the plans in place once we move through with that. So it will be, I know it's a little confusing because we'll be looking at what already exists, but then the opportunities. So I can't say definitively what opportunities are going to come up because I don't know, but I'll say in working with communities and similar projects. So Elkins is a community I worked with that did a similar project. From their identity wayfinding branding process, they came up with a riverfront development plan because they determined their river was an underutilized asset and they wanted to connect that better to their downtown. So then they created a plan around that they have already received the phase 1 implementation money for. So I hope that we're going to come up with some some big opportunities from this. Our goal is to always have big transformational, impactful projects for our communities that they're not gonna be able to implement in 3 or 6 months. They're gonna take a couple years because that's where we see the huge long-term
Yeah.
benefit. And I'll say the hub is we walk alongside our communities. I'm gonna be involved in the process. So in addition to the financial contribution we're making, we also bring just a lot of capacity and support for the communities and in terms of the implementation.
I mean, currently, there's already a land reuse. The LRA is currently working on a plan to redevelop all areas of the county and look for redevelopable properties. And I have a problem spending $80,000 if that's what you're gonna do when we've already spent 50,000 to do this. I mean, I'll be gone in December, but I just have a problem double spending on something that we're already working on. I mean, I didn't know whether you knew that.
This isn't necessarily to look at property redevelopment. It's gonna look at a lot of opportunities, so.
What else besides what you explained?
I mean, to determine how to promote Fayette County, both internally and externally to stakeholders, visitors and community members. As well as, I mean, it's. When you say property development, we're gonna look at assets. So there's, Needles Eye Park. That's an asset that has had a lot of investment over the last few years. I'm not an outdoor recreation expert. I don't know that Needles Eye Park has fully taken advantage of all the opportunities that exist there, but the consultant's gonna help us be able to look at that and determine additional opportunities that exist there, or,
Yeah, because
With
now
the rail
people can't
trail.
even,
So what
people
about
can't
Sou-
even find it,
Well, what
so.
about Southern West Virginia
this'll help
and the
that.
advertisement that Southern West Virginia spends? I forgot how much money it is. I should know it.
CVBs.
CDBs, yeah, the CDBs, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in advertising, promoting these areas. I mean, to me, it's just double spending. I mean, is this just for the 3 communities?
Well.
It was, we're not asking for any extra money
No.
from you all. We have the money in our account already.
They're
We're just
gonna-
asking you to
they're
let
gonna-
us use it for something else other than our comp
I mean,
plan.
I know, but I mean, that's the only issue I have.
it really is
I
to
don't-
create kind of a strategic vision for how you're gonna, promote your assets and what, I mean, the identity and the branding and promotion is. And I think it will be cohesive. So I'll say, I have been involved in wayfinding efforts with New River Gorge RDA for the last couple of years. I'm also involved in the Mon Forest Town Initiative in that part of the state. That initiative has been huge, and I think that there's a good opportunity for something like that to come out of this concept with these 3 communities. And just I can't express enough that the benefit we see from the cohesion and collaboration when you get communities working together to break down silos and have folks moving projects forward, together with the same energy and dedication.
And all the communities, I would want to be involved in it, if anything else. I mean,
See, in our packet that was sent, they're gonna do a lot of branding and signage is gonna be the same coming from Smithers, Montgomery, pack up into Oak Hill. And that way people know what to identify with and what to look for in order to see a different opportunity for them to take.
I think what would be helpful is how you distinguish or tell us how you would work with the CVBs and how you distinguish what you're doing, the branding and things that you're doing from what the CVBs do.
Well, Megan Weatherford has been part of our committee already with Smithers and Montgomery, so we'll be working with the CVBs. We're not gonna necessarily create this will create some of the promotional materials, but it would also look at the best ways to identify that. But we'll definitely be working with the CVBs, check with the Stover, anyone at the Fayette County CVB, the Southern West Virginia. So that will be kind of one of the outcomes, but it's gonna be part of this overall process.
So you would be feeding information to the CVBs to put out
That will
to
be one of
its
those.
constituents.
Yes.
But not duplicating the efforts that
No,
the CVBs are making on behalf of the municipalities.
No, absolutely, no. The CVBs don't do the wayfinding. Wayfinding is a really complex process in terms of like where signs go, how signs should look. Creating a cohesive brand for all the Fayette County communities that are involved and, we can certainly have conversations with other Fayette County communities. We're working with the 3 that, we were already involved with. So we won't be duplicating any efforts from the CBB. They would be a partner and a stakeholder in this work.
So you naturally, a community wouldn't have to be involved if you say you're gonna cover the whole county.
Well, I don't know that we can cover the whole county with the identity and branding process, but
What
the
if
hope
there's
is to start on the
If there's
regional.
a trail
wayfinding.
somewhere else in Meadow Bridge, or there's a trail in Golly Bridge, and there's a trail or activity in other areas, if you don't brand it the same, I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that the hope would be that down the line, other communities would want to take part in this and will look for more opportunity to involve them.
$80,000 help to
I mean,
implement
it's gonna
this?
get us a start, yeah.
Well, along with what he's saying and what I was interested in when I asked you that question earlier is, I would like to see an effort like this be a countywide effort, not just limited. I mean, I'm happy that, and I grew up in the Montgomery Smithers area, so I'm happy that's where it started, and I want to see it, expanding. I love that Oak Hill's jumping on, but I'd love to see our other municipalities benefit from the same thing. So we do have signage in the county in general, but our other municipalities, Ansted, Mount Hope and Golly Bridge, all to benefit from it. So there's some consistent, signage throughout the county. I know there's a group across the river that's been having conversations about this for a while and talking about how to
North of the bridge.
the Nobro or whatever they're calling themselves now, Coffee Klatch. I went to one of their meetings recently and they were even talking about, Dave Arnold is the one I told you guys that Dave Arnold invited me to, but they were even talking about trying to get a replica bridge across 19 or signage just to let people know they're entering the park and that sort of thing. But if we did have a consistent, signage and consistent with our strategic plan throughout the county. And then other things within these municipalities, because we are one of the big funders of Eagle's Eye and that sort of thing. We have provided some funding to some of these other trails.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I think it has to be an incremental process, we're not gonna, I mean, if we can start with these communities and then have the conversations about how to involve other communities and look for those opportunities, it takes time and it's gonna take a lot of effort. We can't make any of this happen overnight, so, but we gotta start somewhere, and I think this is a good opportunity.
And we're all hubcap communities, the other communities are not, and when it's their turn, then the hub will also give them money like they're doing with us now.
Yeah, I will say that the
How
hub
much money
has,
is the hub giving?
we're given $60,000 in technical assistance as well as the, our support and capacity from the professional coaching. I visit each of these communities at least once a month for our coaching meetings. So we have a pretty big investment in time and resources.
How do they become hubcap communities?
These communities were approached 3 years ago. We had previously worked with Smithers and Montgomery. I will say we did reach out to Ansted and Mount Hope when we had applications open for our Accelerate program, and Fayetteville. They didn't feel like they had the capacity to, Mount Hope did apply, I'm sorry, but Ansted and Fayetteville didn't feel like they had the capacity or the right people in place to pursue those opportunities. The hub is always looking at new coaching programs and opportunities, to work in new communities. So I hope that in 2025 or 2026, we're gonna have the opportunity to work in some additional Fayette County communities, but I'm not gonna stand here and promise that we can do that because I don't know.
So Fayetteville didn't have the capacity and the people to do it? Is that what you just said?
That's what we were told in terms of applying to be part of the coaching program through Accelerate. Our coaching programs are a lot of work for our communities. I think Mayor Cavalier, Robert, Polly, Anita would agree. It's a lot of work from the community's perspective to be involved in this and move things forward. We've been working for 18 months to get to this point and determine what the projects would be and what everyone's
Can the
interested in.
county be involved in the hub along with the municipalities?
Yeah, I mean, we would welcome,
See where I'm going, but
Yeah.
these other, they're not gonna have the
Yeah,
capacity.
because I wonder if there's
to
a
do that.
construct in which we could do it from a county, provide assistance in some way, or do it from a county level to help our smaller, I mean.
Yeah, we're not gonna have.
Smithers
the-
was
yeah.
able to have, because it's smaller, to have all the people to do it. You know, it's a struggle, like I
Holly
imagine
Bridge
Holly
and-
Bridge would have a very difficult time, Meadow Bridge
Meadow Bridge,
probably.
will, all, so that'll never happen.
Instead, for them to do it individually, but if there's, you know, if you could think of a construct where we could assist or facilitate or something.
Has anybody ever done it with the county?
We do have, so we currently have, Mason County is in one of our programs, and then, their Webster County came in as a whole in one of our programs, so that could be a future opportunity for, you know, for Fayette County as well, and it could be a good opportunity to work with some of the smaller communities, but I think now is how we can set up that opportunity to have kind of an intentional way to bring them into a program.
I mean, I would like you guys to consider a county option once you get Oak Hill and Smithers and Montgomery moving to an extent you can take on another Fayette County project. And I think we can facilitate getting the smaller municipalities involved and figure out how we can make it work for them, because I think we have a good idea if the mayor's buying in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to come back and meet with the county commission, you know, early in 2025 and discuss how you guys feel like we can, you know, start the conversation with the whole county. Again, we don't have any active coaching programs with the hub that we're accepting applications for right now. We anticipate that we will next year. And that's not to say that there's not other ways that we can potentially work with some of the smaller municipalities to involve them in this, as well as within our GRDA. So we, you know, I'm happy to continue the conversation of how we can make this work out.
See, I look at it like with cellular or even, you know, internet. You've got your main hubs and then you got spokes going out to these other places, and they'll add those spokes as it continues to grow.
But they have to have the ability to do it, correct? These other, they have to.
They gotta have some capacity.
They have
and
to have-
some
you
people
call it
that are willing to
capacity.
show up
I
and
call it the
and carry
ability.
the ball.
These
Yeah,
won't
because
go-
the people in this room have been carrying the ball for these three communities for a long time. They should be commended for the work that they're doing in their communities. I don't think Ann Cavalier sleeps ever.
No, I agree with the whole thing. My issue is, you talk about these other communities doing it. It's just like the county had to take on some responsibility and step into the county and help them with redeveloping some of these properties because they didn't have the ability to do it. So I would like to see something that helps the whole county with spending ARPA money and implement something together. Because you're talking about next year anyway.
Yeah.
I would, that's me though. I try to think countywide and everything. So, I mean,
I understand.
and it's ARPA money, so it's supposed to be spent countywide. If it can be spent that way, it should. I mean, that's just me. You know,
No, I agree with you there. But I don't have a problem at all with reallocating Oak Hill's remaining funds to this. So is 80,000 about what you have left, and that's what you want?
92.5.
92.5.
Yeah, with the additional 12,500, we could probably allocate that towards some of the materials once the plan is made for the signage, the branding materials. So that would be kind of outside the scope of what the hub's doing in the communities, but I think it's something that we can help them with the consultant as
And
well.
where do you source like the signage? Because if we, you know, I think the county is gonna be interested in some capacity in getting some signage out there.
So we just have to put that out to bid and see. We've had different communities utilize different local companies, statewide companies, so we just have to see what that looks
Just
like.
wanna make sure we're using the same signage companies for every Fayette
Yeah.
County
Yeah,
project. So
Yeah.
we're
And
consistent.
please choose a company from West Virginia, not from outside of West
I
Virginia.
don't remember who Mon Forest Towns uses, but they use a West Virginia company, and if you've ever driven through any of the Mon Forest towns, Richwood to Marlington to Cowan to Elkins, Thomas, you see similar signage, and that has brought so much just cohesion, and then people are coming to Marlington and staying the night, then they're also going to like Sulphur Springs or Richwood or Cowan, and it's increasing visitorship because the communities are working together more collaboratively, and I just think Fayette County could have the opportunity to do the same. We just gotta get the ball rolling.
Let me ask you a question. What if the county, and I know it's the last meeting, what if the county had, and I haven't even paid attention, to be honest with you. Other ARPA money to go ahead and try to implement something for the rest of the county. Starting next year.
Yeah, I mean, we could.
You
reach
said
out
Monroe County, what county did you say had it?
to-
Upshur.
Upshur?
I was talking about
Webster
the
and
long,
Mason.
yeah,
Western Mason.
Webster and Mason, yeah.
I mean, you already, you got a platform to do it, right?
Those
Yeah.
counties are, Mason's half the size of ours.
Yeah, Webster County has
A lot
8,000
smaller,
people.
lot
Well,
smaller.
but how many acres does it have?
It's a substantial.
It's a pretty,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we could certainly have that conversation again. You know, the hub doesn't have any open programs, but we have done, capacity building coaching where we've been contracted to work with communities or organizations on specific initiatives. Since we already have, this initiative with the 3 Fayette County communities, I think it would be easy for us to go back to the consultant. And actually, this consultant is already working with the Meadow River Valley Association in that part of Fayette County as well. They're working with Matt Ford and his group and the Greenbrier Fayette County area over there on the trail. So we are gonna have some cohesion there. I have a good relationship with Matt. He knows that we're doing this project as well. Eric Voorhees, who is here in Fayetteville and is a contract coach at the hub, is helping Matt with that project.
He's
So
part of the north of the bridge group that's
Yeah.
looking at the signage.
Eric also works with us in this, so there's gonna be a lot of folks, there is a lot of commonality and a lot of cohesion with, the folks working on this, but I think that could be a possibility that, again, we could discuss with the consultant that we're working with Destination by Design about how we can increase this to some of the other areas in Fayette County, if that's what the commission, would like to explore.
So let me ask this. When you say there are no programs open, does that mean there just isn't funding available? Because I don't think we're necessarily asking
Yeah,
for you to fund it.
yeah.
What we're asking is if we fund it, can you do it?
If you are willing to fund it and contribute to contract coaching work, then yes, we can do it. So I say that Hubcap is a program of the USDA. So, well, it's a program of the hub funded by USDA and the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. So that provides the support for my time and our resources to be able to work with the communities. And then in turn, we provide technical assistance support to the communities for their project. So I think the ask for the additional communities would need to include work with the consultant and as well, either some funding for a coach like Eric or myself to work with those other communities for them to be able to move things together and work together. So when I say we don't have any programs available, it's we don't have any programs accepting applications right now. And we don't have any known funding contributed toward a program that will be accepting applications for. We have several pending applications or pending funding applications for programs that could involve Fayette County in the future, but I don't want to say definitively that there's going to be that opportunity.
But your services are available
Yes.
if they are funded.
Yes, we have worked with other communities on a contract basis in the past, and Eric does that as well.
Well, you probably know that the ARPA money that we have has to be allocated, right? Today's the day that we are allocating that money. And I'm just curious, so Montgomery and Smithers, how much was their,
65,000.
and then you guys contributed money to that too, right?
Yes, we're contributing 40,000 to that, so it left 25,000.
Okay.
We were exploring some other funding sources, but also, we're headed into.
So Kill's 65 also?
Oak Hills was 45. They got a discount because we were working with the same consultant. And part of what the consultant does is look at all the assets and resources in the area. And that was going to be less of a lift because there's so many shared assets that they would be looking at with Smithers and Montgomery.
Okay, and then your contribution to Oak Hill was gonna be 60,000, right?
20,000.
20,000.
So it's 60,000 between the 3 communities that the hub is contributing.
Okay, and then they are contributing how much total? I'm just trying to get a big,
35.
what's the big number?
The
The total.
total project for all 3 is 140,000. That includes the regional wayfinding.
3 communities.
Yes, of that, the hub is contributing 60,000. The communities contribute 2,500, which is part of the 20,000 to the hub. And then that was the request of the commission to reallocate 80,000 that Oak Hill already has. in support of this.
Who paid for Montgomery and Smithers contribution, the 25?
Each of the communities is, yeah,
The city, how much did you each put in, Ann, do you remember?
I can
It's-
speak for Smithers, we put in 2,500.
yeah, they each put in 2,500. In
And it's-
addition, all three of the communities have done creative placemaking projects. I don't know if you've driven along Route 60 and seen their calculator mural that's going up. We were involved in Oak Hills litter cleanup and a mural in Montgomery, so we've all contributed to the communities in that capacity as well.
Where did the rest of the 25,000 for those two communities come from? Smithers,
From year 20.
From our money, from
oh, from your
USDA.
money,
Yes,
okay. I'm just trying to get the numbers straight.
yeah,
Yeah, because 2,500, right?
yes.
They contribute.
Yeah. Their 2,500 goes for the whole program, so some of that includes the creative placemaking, the technical assistance money. We also, Smithers will be getting a Vista through the hub that has a contribution from the hub as well, so. There's a lot. I was just really focused on the technical assistance today because that's what we're leveraging to do the wayfinding, branding, and, you know, we're seeking the additional funding from you guys.
All right, well, I move that we approve the reallocation that the city of Oak Hills requested.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and I'll.
Thank you very
leave my
much.
card If you guys want to have a conversation about how we can work with the other communities.
I'd like your card because I think we're gonna discuss that. I intend to
Yeah.
discuss it further. After we get these other couple of specific ones knocked out, so.
Yeah, and my cell phone number's on there, you can feel free to call me.
Could you also give Ms. Taylor a layout of all the spent, where all the funding come from each community? And how much you contributed and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be here, so I mean, that would be a benefit to you.
Definitely provide that, and our meetings are open to anyone in the public, so you're more than welcome to attend it. I believe we meet next Thursday in Smithers in Montgomery, is that correct, here in February? In Smithers at 6 p.m. and we'll be talking about kind of the next steps with the process, so you know, you guys are welcome to attend, but I'll certainly leave my card.
Okay, thank you.
Or we could drive to Upshur County and see you in Buchanan in that really multicolored building. Are you still in there?
We have an office there, but I work from my house in Ridgewood most of the
Oh.
time, so
I was gonna say, I'd like to take you to show you that building. It's beautiful on the inside.
it is very nice, yeah.
I built it. That's why I know it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Okay, we have the matter of Canal Falls. When I came back from the meeting with the PSC, I let you know that I talked with Jonathan at that time and that they were going to be setting up a new account, which they have done. They also said that when Joey was giving his testimony that, you know, he misspoke. And they apologized for that. In their letter, you can see that everything has been done into a separate account. They're also asking for a reallocation because of their telemetry system was more than they actually had requested. I see no problem with changing the telemetry or moving the money from what they had it allocated for to the telemetry system because it's very important. That way they can set in their plant and get an idea of how much water is in their tanks.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I talked to Carl Harris and learned the same things you did, John, that they created an account for the ARPA money we gave them. So they could distinguish, and it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional. That they weren't trying to commit fraud. And we never thought that. We just thought it probably was a miscommunication, and that's what it was. And then they did inadvertently spend more money up from those funds on something, I think it was the telemetry. And they needed our permission, kind of duck pro tunk basically, because they did it.
Right.
And they needed our permission to go ahead and to make that right. And I had recommended they get on the agenda and have us go ahead and approve that just so they can operate with our permission with what they did. So I agree with that, and I'm gonna move that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With Paige Kincaid. Jim and Bart's here. I'll let you know what I found out from our last meeting is that they have 4 grinders that are just driving them crazy. And they're having to pay their help 7 days a week. So there's a lot of wasted funding going to payroll because of these grinders being broken. In order to replace the 4 grinders, it's going to be $10,200. I would also recommend to do this for us to pay the contractor that's going to put it in so that they don't have to worry about the funds down at the PSD. And that way possibly it'll get done quicker. That be done through Buchanan Pump,
Which is a Fayette County business.
correct?
And what's that cost gonna be? Do you know?
10,200 total.
Oh, 10,200 total for all 4. That includes the grinders and the,
Yes, that's the machines and the installation.
I move we
Oh,
approve it.
what is that, Art?
That's just for a ground.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
was-
just for the grinders. How much for the install? Oh, you're going to install them yourself? Okay, all right. So they have the ability to install. It's just 10-2 for the 4 grinders. And
Okay.
I recommend that we do that in order to save them some money so they can stop hemorrhaging.
I agree. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. I move that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Thank you.
there you are.
Do we,
Thank you all for your hard work.
anything else?
Yep. The rest of the ARPA money there.
No.
But
Well,
I do want to take a quick break before we get to that. I mean, is that cool?
yeah.
Back. Hey, gonna call this meeting back to order. All right, commissioners. Any thoughts?
All right, so with regard to the remaining ARPA allocations. We had received a request from the deputies for body cams and tasers, which I think we're gonna take up with from opioid settlement funding. Rather than ARPA funding, so I'm gonna move past it. Of the requests that we had in, the city of Golly Bridge has requested $110,000 to buy a new jump truck for its garbage service. Skid steer for street cleaning, $75,000 and $30,000 for equipment for playground equipment for kids. I'm gonna move that we approve those allocations. The city of Golly Bridge, in addition to the American Legion's request for $500 for its boys program.
I'll second those.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I'm gonna move that the rest of the ARPA money be allocated toward courthouse facility upgrades and maintenance, including the possible purchase of an additional building and a piece of property we could turn into a parking lot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Okay, let me look at my. I think we got everything.
Yes, we did.
All right, motion to adjourn that meeting. Right, did you, wait,
No,
Did you-
it's all on one meeting. It's just-
girl, that is not how I wanted it.
I sent it to you. Remember that job? I'm gonna post.
Yeah,
I agreed to it.
I sent an email saying I wanted a separate notice for the workshop, but. Anyway, so I guess we'll move on to the workshop. I withdraw my motion to adjourn that meeting. Okay, so I had asked Terry Harlan, Health Department Director, to put together a group of stakeholders to discuss how we might allocate some of our opioid funding. And in addition, we have Dr. Franks from Marshall University who wants to talk to us about a grant opportunity that it's pursuing. That from which he would need a contribution from the commission. It's a program that would serve Fayette County among others, and I did engage Terry in those discussions as well, since they involve her department. Terry, who all did you invite to come, like?
For today,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, I mean, the ones that you sent me, so
Mhm.
representatives from those groups. And then, of course, we have Katie here with the ICE Collaborative and Prevention Coalition, that part now.
Okay. All right, are you
And
Dr.
I'm
Frank?
hoping that there's not, I mean, I saw, this is a workshop, right?
Mhm.
I mean, this is like the beginning discussion.
Right.
We're not making a decision today.
We might make a couple of decisions today, but we're not gonna allocate all the money today,
Okay, okay.
so.
She wants to bring something up here.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I just think, like I said at the last meeting, we have to be super thoughtful about this. This is an opportunity that we're not gonna have again, most likely, and so we really want it to impact the devastation that this drug crisis has caused on our community. And so I just want us to, every decision that you guys make and that we all make together, that we're saying, okay, how is this going to make positive changes in our community related to substance use disorder, related to the overdoses, and just the devastation that this drug crisis has caused to our community. It's just super important to me that we don't, I mean, I'm watching the First Foundation and the way they're moving that money, and I just want us as a county to be super careful. And I think, I mean, you gave us money for prevention in the very beginning, and we are super thankful for that. And so I just hope that we'll continue to be really thoughtful.
I haven't seen anything about the First Foundation's allocations. I knew they were finally gonna start making them, but I had not seen that they had made any decisions
Yeah,
yet.
I don't think they have. They made a decision to hire several executives to run the foundation. And so,
I know they're pretty top heavy over there. They've got a lot of people on board, but I haven't seen a lot of
Yeah.
progress on any of that. I mean, hopefully those new executives will review our applications for funding then. And make some decisions, because that's been long overdue. I thought they were supposed to have made allocations by now, based on the last.
The first round, we're supposed to hear about the first round of funding early this month.
Okay, that's what I thought, like it,
It's put in an application. And
okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Dr. Franks, do you want to go ahead and address the group about your program and?
Absolutely.
Yes, if you
please.
would, because we record our meetings and we have people on Zoom listening.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here today to address the commission in Fayette County. My name is Adam Franks. I'm the chair of the Department of Family Medicine and the vice dean for rural health and primary care at Marshall University. And I'm here to speak about a wonderful opportunity we have for Southern West Virginia and Fayette County, especially which is called our ARPA Heroes Grant. The ARPA Heroes Grant is what they call a moonshot grant, in the sense that it's designed to bring a large amount of money to an area to fix a specific problem, and to utilize that to bring in multiple partners throughout that region. The things that make the ARPA grant unusual and difficult are also the things that I think are going to make it actually work. First of all, it's a $15 million grant. Potentially $15 million to the area. It has a 2-to-1 matching that's required for the application. So I'm here in part to raise $30 million from the entire area. Not specifically, and it's supposed to decrease opioid overdose death calls to EMS, and it has to be over 500,000 people. So we put together a 10-county consortium that would satisfy that requirement. It's actually close to 600,000. It's a third of the state. One of the unique aspects of the grant is this 2-to-1 matching money. And I've spent the last 6 weeks, 2 months trying to raise money for various entities, county commissions. This is even though I've spoken to some of the county commissions here, this is my first trip to Fayette County, but I visited all the other counties as well. We've engaged healthcare partners like the FQHCs in the area, the major health centers in the area. We've engaged MCOs and large industry in the state. And of course, we've also engaged with West Virginia First, and we feel like at this point, safe to say a majority of this matching money is going to come from. Now, the purpose of the matching money is twofold. One is to make sure that everybody has some skin in the game. Everybody feels like that this is an important endeavor, kind of a mandate from the people, if you will. So, we could conceivably get $30 million straight from West Virginia First. If we did that, we probably would fail the grant, because that's not the purpose of the matching money. It's to bring everybody together. And then the second part of it is for sustainability past this 3 years. So the way that it's structured is that it's a results-driven grant. So we don't get to see the actual $15 million unless we're successful. Starts us off with a small amount of money, $2 million up front, and then it gives us certain signposts along the way that we have to meet certain measures. If we meet the measures, we can then, by the end of the first year, realize that $15 million, the total of $15 million. So we have to kind of earn the $13 million on top of this $2 million we would get if we got this grant. Because this is a results-based grant, this is not going to be a hub and spoke model for the rollout of this. There's no way that we could spend $15 million at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, and hope to make an impact on an area this big. So this money is going to be utilized in the counties, on the county people, and on the county services, more in a network situation as opposed to like I said, a hub and spoke. The process, we don't feel like we know that feels like our model is a good model, but what the goal of that of us collaborating with the different counties is that we don't expect to come in and stamp what has to be done. We're going to start with from a needs assessment standpoint. That's already actually happened. We've had 5 or 6 town halls in the different counties to find out what has been needed. We've had multiple stakeholders, shareholders in each of those meetings. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find out what each county does really well and what gaps there are in the county. Because it doesn't make any sense to duplicate any services. We want to know what is done well and support that, and we want to fill any gaps that are there in each county. So it all starts with a need assessment. We're going to have an aspect of prevention with it. There, of course, will be treatment with MAT, mental health, primary care. But what makes our model a little bit different is the wraparound services that we lean into. So most divisions of addiction science are in psychiatric departments, and that does fit well in there usually because most of the treatment that is done tends to be MAT and mental health, and that fits well in a psychiatric department. But in a family medicine department, we lean more towards the social determinants of health, those aspects of care that aren't necessarily in an office visit. If you have high blood pressure, I can tell you what to do, diet and exercise. I can give you the appropriate medicine, but if you're worried about where you're going to live, or where your food is going to be coming from, or how you're going to pay for your utilities, you're not going to be as invested in that. Same principles apply to treating opioid addiction. So we have wraparound services that address multiple different things, including housing, including transportation, including employment even. So we work through all of those. I will say that ARPA has seen what we've done, and they do seem to like what we've put together. This is the second application we had to apply to be invited to apply for this grant at this level, and we got the highest score in the nation on this very competitive grant. And they've been to see our model, and what our model has been able to show just in our little corner of West Virginia is we've been able to decrease medical costs through decreasing ER utilization and NAS, neonatal abstinence syndrome births. We've been able to decrease the cost of foster care system by reuniting infants and children with their parents. Through our wraparound services, we've been able to decrease the penal system costs by substituting inpatient treatment for incarceration at times. And then we've been able to increase the available workforce through our occupational rehabilitation. So my purpose in being here today is to humbly ask for support for our grant and possibly a monetary contribution or an in-kind contribution. And I'm more than happy to discuss what that could look like as well. This grant, though, is the best way that I've seen to mobilize this amount of resources for an area like this, and to bring together such a diverse group of partners in order to fight this kind of an epidemic. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission or anyone here has for me.
Terry,
Can you talk a little bit about what the measurements will be? You said, what are the outcomes that they're going to be looking at to make sure we continue to get funding?
So the only measure that ARPA puts on us for this grant is to decrease the opioid overdose calls to EMS. Now, that's a very artificial measure, and I think anybody who works in addiction knows that. That can be manipulated by how you call in to EMS or how things are recorded. So while that's the measure that we're being judged by, we're shooting for our own measurements that treat the underlying causes. So, the amount of people in treatment, how long has it been since law enforcement has had to be utilized for that population? Reunifications, like I said, for women who have opioid use disorder. Housing, another big one. So we have a series of very kind of global measurements that we're going to be holding ourselves to that are the bedrock that should help with the decrease in the opioid overdose.
But these things are already happening in Huntington, and you're just hoping to put them in the other 9 counties, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And to the level that the different counties need, because, we've spoken with, I've spoken with all the different counties, and each county has its own unique sets of problems and their own unique, skill strengths as well. So, it's not like we're going to put a stamp in and say, we're going to show you how to run this in your county. It's the governance structure is going to be very much a governance structure within each county. Each county should look different through this model, and each county will be run by its governance structure of its own people who will have representation on the overall grant governance. So.
And the money, like our portion of the money would actually come here to the county.
We would be very, we have to be very transparent with how the money is going to be utilized and where it's going to be utilized. And while I can't say if, $10 are given from a county that specific $10, but at least $10 will be utilized in each county.
So you're saying utilized, but will it be sent here, or you will spend that money on this county?
No, we will be using partners in each county, and the money will be utilized for those partners.
So who will your partner be in Fayette County?
I was not part of the needs assessment, so I can't give you the exact people that were there, but I can get you that information because we have had about, like I said, about 5 or 6 town halls, and those were very well attended. I don't know if anybody here was part of it, so.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So, you said that you have all these other measures, but the grant is specifically looking at those calls. So right now, those calls are not being coded as opioid overdoses. So in order to see long-term impacts, we need those calls to be coded correctly. Whenever those calls are being coded correctly, our call numbers are going to go through the roof. How is that going to affect the funding?
well, we would have to correct that before the grant actually would start.
And when does the grant start?
The grant would actually start in April.
So that system would have to be corrected in the next 4 months.
Or we maintain the system the way it is right now. I mean, that's another option, I guess. In my conversations with Mr. Deacon first earlier in the week, that was a concern of theirs as well, is that things are being called in a certain way right now. Our only requirement is to decrease that number. if we don't change how it is right now, it's gonna be decreased that way.
How are
I'm
they
not-
how are they coded? Enlighten me a little bit. How are they coded now? The overdose call, are you talking about from our 911 center?
I'm just talking about the whole world. So Fayette County does an excellent job of getting Narcan out.
Mhm.
Excellent job. So a lot of times the overdoses are never even called in. So if the only goal is to reduce calls, I mean, we just shut down the phone system, and guess what? Like we've reduced those calls. We haven't impacted the situation at all.
Yeah, I was wondering about your data sources. That was one of my questions for you. I took notes on.
So, I mean, I think this is long-term. This is great. I have some major concerns about that being the only measure that the funder is looking at.
Well, I
Major concerns.
I understand, and it does worry us as well. Unfortunately, we don't have any control over what the funder has decided to look at.
But I also have questions about like housing and transportation. Those are, I mean, they are detrimental issues here in Fayette County. Like how is your program going to create housing? Like there's not even housing for me, and I am not experiencing a substance use disorder. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's just not. So I guess I just don't understand.
And what are you talking about in housing, temporary housing, permanent housing?
Either or, we have our Project Hope for Women and Children, which is a housing treatment facility. So those can be created in different counties that don't have to, what we're looking for is low barrier access to care. So we don't want to ship people who are identified as wanting care out of counties to a central hub. We want them to stay where they are. So either finding or creating housing vouchers, or creating bricks and mortar kind of buildings for that is a possibility through this grant. The grant money stipulation is that it can be used for anything as long as it's directly tied to the goal of decreasing opioid overdoses.
So how much of that money would come back to Fayette County to create programs like that?
As much as it needs to in order
It
to
needs the whole 30.
yeah. Well, that's what we found when we put it, so I'm not writing the grant in all honesty. Dr. O'Connell is writing the grant, and the reason she's not here with me right now is because she's writing the grant and it has to be in on the 10th. So she told me yesterday she put all the budget together, and what we have budgeted right now for everything and with all the partners and the subcontractors for the grant, which are the specific county entities, it comes to 59 million. So obviously that even $45 million, if we're able to realize all of that money, it's still not enough for this area. So in trying to answer your question, it's very difficult to answer that question. Because one, we have the constraints of what the grant is, right? And the grant is if we decrease opioid overdoses, we realize that $15 million that is federal money that is given to this area to fix the problem. We understand that that's, we could get a month into it and a new drug comes out that's so addictive that everybody overdoses on it, and we fail it miserably in the first number of months, and we don't see any of that money. If that's the case, the $30 million that is pledged, whether it's in kind or funds, is not touched. It's not utilized. It's only utilized if we are successful with the federal dollars and the upfront stuff. On one sense, we have to deal with the data collection that we have. We're working with the West Virginia HIM system. We're working with and getting a lot of our data through that. That's what is going to be set as the benchmark. And so impacting that, if we specifically go out and say we're going to try to decrease opioid overdoses, the most efficient way to do that would be exactly what you said, turn off the system and not care about that. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually create sustainable practices within each county Because after 3 years, you know, we want things to not just go away. We want them to continue to run. So
3 years is the term of the grant.
it's a 1 year federal money, and then the 2 years of matching money run at 2 years after that.
So that's a short period to see housing.
It's not it's
Yeah.
transportation.
It's, yes, it is. It is.
So what's the estimated, what would Fayette County have to put into it?
There's no minimum to be included. I mean, we've included Fayette County because we have to have a certain population of people. They have to be contiguous counties, and it makes up the number that we need to hit in order to have a chance to get this grant.
Does that have to be non-federal match?
I don't think so.
Like our prevention coalition, right now is receiving over $600,000 between the Family Resource Network and it's all working on drug prevention and drug and things like that. Yeah, we got six.
Have you looked into that, ladies? Have you looked into that, whether, because most grants federal cannot be,
I will ask that question, and I can text
usually
Dr.
can't match
O'Connell.
with
you usually can't match with federal.
I'll
Definitely
ask
not
that
with
question.
ARPA.
I have not come across that question. I know that,
And did I
I know
understand you correctly that the majority of the 30 million is coming from the First Foundation?
we suspect that. I've had multiple conversations with that. They haven't officially voted, so I can't say that we have that or have that much. We have 8, and no, as of yesterday, we have 9 million outside of what West Virginia First would fund. So we are close to the 30 million. Obviously, the more we get, whether it's in kind or actual funding itself, the more favorably our grant application would be looked at. So
when would we know what that assistance looks like specifically for Fayette County?
So the timeline is this: the grant has to go in by the 10th of December. Early in February, late January, early February, we're supposed to find out if we get it. We need to have stuff up and running and starting in April. So if we get the grant, when we find out we got the grant, that's when we will.
So most of these, don't mean to interrupt you, most of these are done by population. Because that's what this is gonna do. Do you have any idea if it's gonna be done by population?
What do you mean done by population?
In other words, if it's $30 million total, right? You got 600,000, you took in 10 counties at 600,000 people. Usually they go by population of the county as the funding split up.
By
It's usually-
need too. I mean, we're trying to look at it not just by population of the county, but by need of the county. There are some counties that have a higher need, but they don't have the
Yeah,
population.
last time this happened, Raleigh County got majority of the money. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you remember.
Yeah, I actually told him about that, about how the opioid settlement funds were distributed by who had the most crooked pharmacies, not who had the most people
Yes.
affected by it. And so all of our people, of course, went to Raleigh County's crooked pharmacies to get their drugs, and, you know, Raleigh County got all the money that we could have used to help them. So that, I mean, so while we received some settlement funds, our percentage of the pie was low compared to the need.
Sure.
And that was what I wanted to sensitize you to with smaller counties like this one, and especially in this part of the state. When we are lumped in with counties the size of Raleigh and Kanawha and Cabell, you know, and I did note that there are some smaller counties in the list. That's why I was asking about them the other day, trying to figure out like who else is in this, and you know, what are their populations and that sort of thing. I know that we bring a lot to the table with regard not only to our terrible stats in the past, but in our efforts to fight them, you know, here through our prevention program. Our ICE collaborative are we the only one in the state? So we're the only ICE collaborative program in the state. Ours has been going for 5 years and it's strong.
Yeah.
And we believe a lot in that program. We also, you know, so we bring a lot to the table because we're part of Ground Zero, you know, and I know Cabell, you know, has, and, you know, the Huntington area has all the documentaries based on it, and, you know, but McDowell and Fayette and some of these other ones are really where the work is being done and where you really see, you can see, measure the results much more easily. But we have to figure out how to measure them, and they're right, like, so when you're talking about how to quantify this, like, what are some sources of data that we could use to quantify something? I made sure the 911 center got on the phone, because I think that's one source of information where we could collect data.
Oh, yeah, big source.
It's very difficult though, because even the calls that come into 911 a lot of times come in as cardiac arrest, or they don't come in as an overdose because they don't want law enforcement involved. And so,
Is there any way that, is there any way that the officer or the ambulance or whatever can follow up and make a change to that in a notation?
Wonder if we could get stats from, because we do, I mean, we
Just
do.
remember, you don't want to change it too much because our numbers are gonna go through the roof and then we'll be disqualified for the money.
We'll change it now and then, I mean, I'm just saying it would increase it right now if we did, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, that would be I mean, I hate playing games with the whole thing, and really our ultimate goal is to try to make an impact on the opioid crisis in all the counties, right? And it's all or one or none in this sense. So, you know, if we, we're not going to do this, but if we decided to put all the money in the big counties and neglect the small counties numbers would keep us from succeeding. So we really. Here's what, okay.
No, Fayette County's numbers will continue to go down as long as our health department is doing what they're doing and our programming, like.
Can you, have you introduced yourselves before the meeting started? I want to make sure he knows who he's
No, I
talking
got
to
you.
among us. So Terry Harlan is the director of our health department. And then Carrie Strug is over our family resource network.
I'm the coalition coordinator for the Fayette Prevention Coalition.
Fayette, I mixed, because I've got all your acronyms and it mixes me up. Okay, so. Right, and then family resource is Diane Collison, and Diane, if you guys would tell him the programming that you guys have going, like Diane has Teen Court, I know, and some other things.
Well, and then Katie is with the health department and she manages the ICE collaborative that Allison touched on. So the Family Resource Network is a local nonprofit. So we house the Fayette Prevention Coalition financially. And with that, some of their programming. So the federal grants that Carrie touched on are under our umbrella as a 501c3. And we have one with the CDC and one with SAMHSA. Our CDC is getting ready to end, it's drug-free communities. And that has a focus on reducing youth and alcohol, youth, tobacco, and alcohol use among middle school and high school students. So we have an extension period coming up for your 6 through 10 this coming March. So if we get that, we'll have 5 more years of funding. That's 125,000 every year for 5 years. 250 with the match. We have a match requirement in kind or cash.
But I'm gonna back up. In 2017.
You're backing up higher to me.
Yes, in 2017, our overdoses were through the roof. And so the health department was working with the sheriff's department, was working with everybody, and they said we have to do something. And that's whenever they brought in Dr. Hutchinson to talk about the ICE model and how, you know, we need long, sustainable, impactful changes. And in order to apply for the Iceland program, we had to have a coalition. And so that's when the coalition was born. We brought together partners and stakeholders from all over the community, all over the geographic region, and they have come together and they've been working together since 2018 on finding solutions. And I remember in our very first meetings, there was no treatment. And now there are all kinds of treatment. So I mean, so it's just evolved. It's evolved over, I mean, it's almost a decade now. Do you know what I mean? So, and it just keeps getting better and better and better.
Great.
And so we love the idea and we support everything that you're trying to do. We just have lots of questions because we want to make sure that everything that we do is data-driven, evidence-based, and outcome-focused. So we are not looking to reduce the number of calls.
Yeah.
We are looking to increase the number of survivors. Do you know what I mean? To make sure that we are getting parents back to their kids and that the grandparents can be grandparents again and they don't have to be parents anymore. And that these kids have all the resources that they need to become sustainable, good, tax-paying citizens. You know, that's what every economy needs. And so
And that aligns very well with what we're doing, what we want to do too, and what we have been doing in Cabell County to begin with. Yeah, as I've said, we got to play the game in order to get the money from the feds. But outside of that, we believe that all of the services and structures, all of the social determinants of health, those are the things that really can impact. And can we fix everything right now with this money? No, we're not going to fix everything. We're going to try to fix as much as we can, create as much as we can, in a way that we hope is sustainable in the counties, with the counties, with the county people. Let me bring up two things here really quickly, if you indulge me. One is the ICE model. I've been using that as examples when I go to the other county commissions and giving you guys credit for that, because that was one of those bright spots that we actually found out by actually looking into some of this stuff.
Yay, Terry.
No, it really gave Terry. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the support for this grant. You know, while obviously we need funds for it as well, but it can be in kind. So a way of looking at this could be, and it sounds like with everything good that you guys are doing, that there could be a number placed that's fairly high for in kind that helps us with the grant, get the grant. Because I hope everybody here would say, no matter what the potential flaws are for the data and everything, having the opportunity to get the grant is better than not getting the grant, right? So if there were monies that you were going to spend on something that would impact opioid overdose, could conceivably impact opioid overdoses, that could be assigned a value to it. This is, again, your money that you're going to be spending on your people, and we could put that as an in-kind in the letter of support. And that would go towards that match that we have. And again, would help us, and it wouldn't be us coming in and, making sure, you wouldn't have to make sure that the money was being spent here because you would be spending it here.
Sorry, so for example, we've allocated close to $250,000 already to sustain our ICE collaborative program. Would that qualify as in kind?
And if you did that for 3 years during the course of the grant, you could put in 750, through 250 of in-kind dollars for supporting the ICE grant for 3 years of the grant. That would be a very reasonable way to support the grant, again, in an even safer way for your county.
You mentioned something else too. You said one person will oversee this that's not in the county, and you don't know who that was.
Well, so the grant itself needs a governance structure, right? And so if we're responsible for the grant, we have to have some say in the governance. But so there may be a representative from Marshall on each of the counties, or that hasn't been fully detailed yet. But the governance structure of the counties would be run by county.
Okay, I want to make sure that when you mentioned that earlier.
And then on the overall governance structure of the grant, someone from every county would be there.
I would want Terry to be involved in whatever we have going. I mean, assuming you have the time, but I would want you to be involved even if you assign somebody to do it.
Yeah, because I'm still curious to know just how, did the actual money come to the county commissions? Does the county get the money and then we decide as stakeholders where it goes?
There's generally subcontractors in each area that would be utilized for that. So
We don't know yet which group that would be.
yes.
Does subcontractors get part of the money?
Yeah.
Of course.
So, but what services would they perform?
It depends on what's needed in each county. So, and I, in all honesty, I haven't, Dr. O'Connell's these are details that I haven't gotten down into at this point. So
You don't have any examples of things from other places?
Like a youth treatment center, something like that, say is a need, a gap here in the county, it's a gap in the state.
Yeah, there's a gap in
Even
the
if
state.
we don't even have residential adult treatment centers in the county.
And I should have mentioned too, our prosecuting attorney is here and he is not only the prosecuting attorney who handles the abuse and neglect cases that we're talking about when we're talking about reunifying families, but he's also the head of our Day Report Center board, which is another rehabilitative program we use to keep people out of jail and try to get them on their feet so they don't have to go to prison. And they are very instrumental in the cases of those who come into the courts, pushing them to get treatment, creating solutions and plea agreements that involve treatment instead of jail and that sort of thing. Like his office advocates for that, and then the judges are obviously the ones who authorize it. We have a very good Day Report Center program here, and we have, I think what's rare in the state too, a youth reporting center for our kids, which a lot of counties don't have. At least in this part of the state, I can tell you for sure, a lot of counties don't have it. And our youth reporting center works very closely with teen court. We have a teen court program, which is, are you familiar with teen court and what it does? We have drug court, we have family treatment court here. So all of those things. And I spoke with Judge Ewing about his thoughts about that. And interestingly, his very first concern is how are they going to quantify this? You know, that was the first thing he said. Housing, as Carrie mentioned, is a huge issue. We don't have transitional housing. We do have some employers who are using the programming through the state who are, you know, which pays employers to hire people who have been in treatment and that sort of thing. Our Day Report Center tries to help people get employment. Let's see.
How are we measuring the number of NAS babies? You mentioned that, I'm sure in Cabell County, we possibly do better at it than we are.
Well, I mean, our babies are going in Raleigh or Knott County.
I will say since our, since 2018, when our PROACT model started in Cabell County, our NAS babies were cut in half. Not the babies themselves, but the number were cut in half.
I was getting ready to say.
Let me be completely clear. So we really, I mean, they went from 100 and I think it was, and the graph is very stark. It's 140s dropping down to the 70s, and it's maintained that since 2017. And each NAS maybe is, you know, from the cost of the medical system, it's $22,000. So it's a fairly sizable yearly chunk that helps out with.
I don't remember what they're calling DHHR now, but CPS is a great source for NAS babies, obviously, because they respond to every single case of NAS, and our county, you know, workers are going to be involved in the cases. But the thing is when we're asking people to collect data, anybody who's collected data knows that requires an infrastructure. I mean, and it requires manpower and database, and who's going to come out and get it from us if we collect it, who's going to help us collect it, you know, from what sources do we want to collect it. So that, I mean, if we're going to do something like that, I mean, I think that's the most important first step is to figure out, you know, and you're going to want consistent data across the counties, obviously, because
We are. And that's another question I've had.
Okay, thank you. This is. Okay, what, what has happened, I'm, having a severe case of peripheral neuropathy in my right, leg, foot, and the Dr. Connor says it's coming from my hip, where the cancer had, I guess, about in goes in my hip. And this, happened some time ago, although the CAR T, destroyed all the cancer cells, but that was part that was anyway. That's so. And I think the best thing would be to contact Dr. Connor because he's the one that.
Yeah, the most multitasking.
So
Well-
the tenth, but it's you on the tenth. But I will just say, like, every day that the quick response team is out or our harm reduction team is out, we're out providing services, they're coming back with some sad story of a homeless, homeless people or are trying to get into treatment. I mean, there's just, this work is, and you know this, but it's so time consuming and exhausting. And so I don't want to say we're ungrateful because all of these things sound amazing. I mean, we need housing, we need to get people employed and we need all of these things. I think if we're being completely transparent, what we don't want to do is to take our money from Fayette County and give it to a group where we're just not positive what's gonna.
Sure.
Like, we wanna make sure we have some say
We
and
want to make sure that
control
we're getting a return on our investment.
of what we're doing.
Understood.
I mean, because like Commissioner Taylor said, we have a lot of really good things happening here, a lot of really good things, so we need to focus on the things that we know we still need help with. And absolutely prevention, I mean, we just need to continue that work, no matter what we have to do to make that happen.
And the way that the grant is structured, is that we're putting all these things in. And we're putting all these things in. As far as having the dollar amount at this moment to get the grant in. We're not putting it in as, we're spending this money on Fayette County, we're spending this money on Kanawha County, we're spending this money on Raleigh County. We're spending this money on these particular areas of impact, whether that's MAT, whether that's wraparound services, whether that's the data collection, whether that, there's all these different things that we have to cover with the grant. When we're spending the money, that's going to be very transparent. And I do, obviously, and I knew this coming here from my previous conversation was that, Fayette County was not every other county from a standpoint of what you guys do. So as I said before, my plan, our goal in all of this is not to come in and say, we're going to run this thing, right? I mean, I've said that from the beginning, is that we are here to fill any gaps that you've identified multiple gaps. So those would be the things we concentrate on here. Why would we concentrate them on here? It's not because we think it's, you guys need this. It would be because Fayette County says we need this, right? If West Virginia First comes through, we won't need a huge amount of funds for this. That will make it, that I hope would make it more palatable in the sense that we are partners in this and that you will get a return on investment. I will say at this point, we have 4 counties that we have written documentation of what they're committing. And it's anywhere from the funds standpoint, 100,000 to 750,000. Okay, so, and like I said, there's no minimum. One county, the one with the 100,000 also put some in kind of what they were also doing on that as well. And that protects, in my mind, I mean, we want to come in and be good partners in all of this. That's the only way it's gonna work. And so I want you guys to feel as comfortable as you can with this decision.
Well, you said earlier we could use in kind from ICE. And so we wouldn't have to come up with any funding because we're going to use in kind, correct?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. You
So
wouldn't. It would be
That
perfect.
solves the problem right there.
Doesn't solve all of our problems.
Well, I mean, if you're saying we can use that, it solves
You
Fayette
can,
County's problem.
it solves your problem 100%. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, you could do, I mean, with all the stuff you're doing, you're probably putting, you know, $1.5 million in there easy. You could say 1.5 million of in kind in there.
That
And
way
you
we're
haven't put
not out.
anything else in there. Yep. No, I agree.
Well, and we've contributed money to transportation, to fund transportation for various programs that are related. For
Camp store.
health department, the camp store, for prevention there, we do a summer camp. Through the ICE program. We also have contributed vehicles to the health department and to our day report center to transport people to treatment and things. I think we could quantify it pretty easily. You know, and at least get you some numbers together. I think we want to talk a little bit more after a break about whether we want to fund any cash, but we definitely have plenty of, I need a break too. So if we could take a break, we can all come back after. And you're welcome to stay and participate in our discussions, or, you know, it's up to you.
Absolutely. I'm
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order, commissioners.
Okay, we're just listening to the discussion that started during the break. So what we're saying, I heard somebody ask about risk.
So the question was, what's the known risk for Fayette County for this grant? The risk for Fayette County with supporting it, if it's just plain support without any in-kind or funds, there's no risk, right? I mean, we either get the grant or we don't get the grant. We gotta risk the change. With the in-kind, there's no risk. You're gonna spend that anyway, right? It's nothing new is happening. And I'll tell you, most of the counties aren't doing this in kind because most of the counties aren't set up like you guys are with such a robust set of services. The funding there, I would say there's little risk. There's not no risk, right? I mean, we could, if we chose to, not spend any money on it. I can't see how if we made that plus one, how we would decrease the opioid rate. But if somehow we, despite neglecting you, this is hypothetical, on record, then whatever funds you put in there could be at risk. But if we're not successful, that money never gets touched. It goes back to you. So the risk is only if we're successful. And if we're successful, we have to partner with everybody. We have to do the job. That makes sense? Does that answer your question?
Well, we've learned too, I mean, you know, if you didn't send any money back here and you wanted data from here, you know.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
That's fair.
You know, I mean, but we really would need some information on, you know, I feel like if this thing comes off pretty quickly on what kind of data you want to collect as your baseline. And then, you know, what we're going to put in place and what kind of support you're going to put in place to help collect the data that you need to get the rest of the funding.
About the data.
Yeah, it's huge and it has to be consistent across the board because we collect certain metrics for our own purposes, but other counties may not collect those same metrics from those same sources and.
Whatever data that Dr. O'Connell and the addition team has has decided upon will be uniform throughout all the counties. And there'll be a mechanism to collect that data.
Our 911 center does collect overdose calls, so they do code them as overdose calls. And usually they will hear about it no matter how it's called in, you know, it's going to be on the traffic. You know, what actually happened.
Catch as much as they can.
Yeah, they can capture a lot. But you're gonna have to come up with, you know, where's your baseline? Like, what are you measuring from? Because I keep reading that our numbers are down. I don't believe it. I mean, I just don't believe, I know in Fayette County, they've gone down based on some of the programming we've had that we've had, but it's a long-term effort. I don't think we magically just started having reductions in numbers like I'm reading about in the press right now. I think that's not based on data.
I think it's exactly what was brought up here is that, and that was brought up, I guess, no, that was in West Virginia first, was, you know, people are coding, I think, are not, you know, the exact examples, a heart attack, not an opioid overdose, so they just, it's an artificial decrease in data that we're seeing. Yeah. What we feel like in Huntington is that it's the low hanging fruit has been already taken care of. You know, the people that want the care, that want the help, that are interested in rehabilitation, those are the ones that are being helped right now. So there's a little bit of a decrease there. The next decrease that is going to be the hard one, because those are the ones that are a little recalcitrant to do this. So yeah, it's the whole 10% is probably.
Well, I'm trying to think about what we could do besides provide money, which is what most people come to county commission to get. I was thinking, and I sent a note down the table, but we are in a position to offer, I think, we need to do more research on it. We have both of our lawyers in the meeting, but tax incentives to businesses who would hire people in recovery. Maybe, you know, just temporary tax incentives or something like that on their inventory tax or something like that. I don't know exactly how it will work, and of course, we'd have to talk to the county assessor and see what his take on it is. I think that is something we probably could explore at the county level doing. I mean, we have the state program that reimburses salaries for some places that do that. But, you know, not a lot of people want to participate in that, but a lot of people do complain about their tax liability.
Have you guys, does CORE reach down here this far from our creating opportunities for recovery employment?
No.
Ashley Shaw. Okay, so that would be a resource that could be partnered with. And what she does is occupational rehabilitation. So
There's a place in Oceana that reaches down here. I don't know, of course, the name of it, but everybody has to go to Oceana.
yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like the programs that cover Fayette County for that, you have to go to them.
and that's
Way
what the
too
low
far.
barrier is in, you know, we don't want everybody to have to be shipped to 3 counties over or wherever
On a daily basis.
to do something like that. So
Yeah.
CORE is set up in hubs in, you know, around, you know, Huntington and I think Kanawha and some other places within our scope right now. That can easily be expanded and help out with that. And they not only work with people who are in recovery to get jobs, you know, all the stuff that, you know, making sure, getting resumes, work skills, you know, those kind of things. But also they work with the employers to say, this is how you keep your business, your customers and the patients safe, or the individuals safe while they're getting back to gains of employment. And as we know, being employed helps out quite a bit when you're trying to fight the addiction, you know, the recovery.
It does.
It's interesting. I'll just mention that, I mean, I have 2 employees who are in recovery and have been in recovery for years. They are the best employees. And I think part of it, because I've watched them grow but they know that they're up against barrier after barrier. So they are so determined to do it right that sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, you don't have to tell me that. Like, just do it.
We trust
Like, is it okay if I do this? Yes, you can do that. But they are they're just.
And that's
really
impressive to
good.
me because one of them was in one of my cases, so I'm very familiar,
Yeah.
you know, so the change is remarkable.
unbelievable.
remarkable.
Yeah, it's really.
And oftentimes it takes that, have it working in, an environment that, is supportive of the person. I mean, our employers in the county who are, who employ folks in recovery or who've just gotten out of jail, are, very inclusive and focused on them to make sure they're okay. Like these are places that don't have a bunch of drug users in their kitchens. That's a famous, very popular place for drug users to work is in kitchens around here. And these are some of the restaurants that don't have that. It's the opposite. We have people in recovery in our kitchens.
So our core program has about a 35% success rate of people being employed going through that program, which we have looked through the literature and I'm not seeing anything close to that. So we feel it's highly successful, and on the salaries that people get going through that program, end up about 122% of minimum wage. So it's above minimum wage jobs that going on there. A lot of them end up doing peer recovery coaching. I'm sure you guys use those as well. So yeah, those are, yeah. And that's what we use a lot of for transportation to help out with those kind of issues as well. What we're hoping to really create, and this is to get this network of information so that we can find people, I guess, this continuum of care that we talk about, keeping people in treatment, allowing people to not fall out. Obviously, these are adults, we can't force them into treatment, but we can leverage relationships, right? So peer recovery coaches get to know people in recovery. Somebody falls out and we can identify that through our network with the West Virginia HIN system. Come to a visit or 2 visits of treatments. We send somebody there, one of the peer recovery coaches, they have a relationship to get them back, or to have, mention the penal system. The number one time for those people, those patients need to the doses right when they come out, and having a system where they're met by a peer recovery coach as they're being discharged, so they have somebody stable that can help take care of them and get them situated is this is the way we feel we're going to impact overdoses, not by magically targeting that measure. It's all the underneath stuff that has to be done that you're already doing a lot of. But are there gaps? Yes, housing, transportation, we talked about those.
So when are the needs assessments gonna be conducted that you spoke of?
So they've already kind of started.
There was one at the health department a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we've already done kind of the first round of them. This is the round for the grant. Then the needs assessment will occur. Then again, a larger one that's done by Pollinate is the company that's going to do that. And West Virginia First really has a vested interest in that as well. So that they're going to tie some of their money into making sure that we do the needs assessment in a way that they like as well, I guess. Those will occur at the very, probably before we officially start. It may occur as we're, when we find out, because we want to hit the ground running, so.
Yeah, because I feel like that first meeting was more of an informational.
Right, yeah, that was for the grant, really.
Yeah.
To try to sit there and say, what are the needs?
What do we?
But yes.
If we would decide to do an in-kind and a financial match, where would those, or when would those pledges be due?
You said Monday,
No,
preferably.
the letter would be due on Monday, not the pledge.
Oh, the amount of money.
Yeah, any money that you pledge for the match, for the grant itself, or that 2-to-1 match will not be touched until year 2, which would be April 2026. In kind is a little harder in my mind for that because we're not touching that. You're doing that. It's going to be done right away. I mean, it's not like we're going to collect the money and then give it to you guys. You guys are just. In my mind, the in kind is so we know where our partners are within each county. if we know that ICE is a partner here because there's in-kind money that we can, that we can utilize that service if we need to. Yeah, we're not touching any of those funds. Those are all just held within the county.
I think if it's not a percentage of cash, you have to have it. In kind to me is what we do so much already. That would be substantial amount of in kind, in my opinion. I don't know the exact figures.
Is that what your list is?
Yes.
I figured he usually has it all lined out.
Yeah, I had, I appreciate talking with you yesterday. You were able to answer a few of my questions. The 10-county group that we're a part of, I feel that looking at some of those counties, I don't know what all the counties' programs are, but I feel we're head and shoulders above quite a few. And our people put their heart and soul into what they do. They truly believe, they walk the walk and they talk the talk, and you see them continually out there. You can run into them in the store or whatever, and they're talking with people. I personally feel that our in-kind will definitely outweigh the financial part that we could possibly give if we decide to go that way. Several hundreds, thousands of dollars have been put into these programs because we believe in them, because we see the results. And these ladies have done an amazing job. But again, I mean, there's that question mark of if we don't get it, we're not losing anything, which is very, very good, knowing that, yeah, you could say, okay, we're going to give you $100 grand and here's, over $1 million in in-kind. Knowing that we're not going to lose it, that makes me feel more confident. When will you know if you're going to get the grant or not?
The end of January, early February. There's not a hard date. And again, it's a very competitive grant. We're going up against very large corporations for this grant. But as I said, we feel like we're in a fairly strong position with this.
So,
Your first application was provided for the region.
And they came and toured around all of our facilities and all our programs. So they, the CDC and
Is that where it's gonna be?
I think the drug testing, all their programs.
And are they just giving one?
there's 4. And they're different.
Or that's
They're
different metrics, but the same amount?
Yes. Yes, this is the first time.
To do 100,000, then plus more money.
Yeah, we pursue the specific vision to kind of create a model of what does a results-based grant actually look like? And how can we, this is better than just saying, oh, here's $2 million grant, you get the money, you can do what you told us. No sense that you're getting a return on investment.
Perhaps I missed it, but how many did you say were approved to apply for the grant?
I don't know that number. There are 4 grants that they're going to be awarded. Of this.
Okay.
I do think it's really important to keep in mind what Tom was talking about as far as how funding is allocated by population and just, which I don't have, like, I feel like we were gonna hold them county. I mean, we're gonna, and you probably know that, but that happens to us all the time, where it's based on population, and I argue that we should get more money than Raleigh County because we're doing, or whoever, it can't, like that, it just doesn't make sense. But that's how it is, so.
And I sensitized Dr. Franks and Michael Shiriko to it, the people who contacted me about it, because I explained to them how the opioid funding came down and how it was not fair to the counties and it had zero to do with the problem or even the population. It had to do with their calculations based on the number of pharmacies filling illegal scripts, and they took that formula from some national formula, ill-informed formula. And here we are. And then I told them, not only did we only get a tiny little piece of the pie that we should have had more of, but we had a tiny little vote on, with regard to the West Virginia First Foundation, that percentage, our percentage of vote was based on the tiny percentage of money. And so then when we voted for our representative for our 10 region, it's not another magic number, but our 10 region group that includes a bunch of huge counties, we had these tiny little fractions of votes to decide who was going to represent us on West Virginia First. And so, we reached out to our other counties and got together and went with somebody together and got our municipalities on board and sent, our vote in and, accumulated small percentages of votes to try to get a little more voice at the table. But it's just really been, that's kind of the story and the song of Southern West Virginia. And whether it's our roads or anything, everyone wants to court us during an election year, but the population bases are up north. And that's where the majority of the votes are, and that's where their attention's going, and that's who they're trying to court for next time. They like to act like they care, but then you don't see it
Is it called buying
in the
votes?
policy or the funding.
Is it called buying votes?
I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what it is.
That's what I call it.
I know that White Sulphur Springs has some nice new roads, and I know that Fayette County doesn't. So, that's just what happens around here. And so if we are to get involved in something like this, like, we are gonna definitely want a seat at the table and not a percentage of a seat. If they're representatives from, every county, we want a full vote. Just equal to the vote of Kanawha County or whoever the $750,000 funder is, because counties this size, you heard they laugh, scoff at the meager $250,000 number, but that's huge dollars in a small county like this. It's a huge amount of money. And outside.
And I didn't mean to minimize that.
Oh, no, I mean, but I'm just trying to sensitize you to, like, there is a history of courting our funding and courting our support in certain things, and then nothing. Nothing comes back into the community. So, that's, and I told them before they came, that this was going to be an issue that came up, because this is something that I don't even think there's a precedent for somebody delivering on promises here. There just isn't. So, I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I just can't think of a precedent where somebody came down and said they were going to do all these things and then they actually did them.
It seems like our people are used because we've developed a process that works quite well. And our processes get taken out to other areas, and then we get shafted while the others reap tons of rewards.
Yeah. I think there's strength in sharing our successes and helping other counties. I think, we learn by teaching, right?
I think we are leaders despite not having the help that we've wanted, but we also have dismal numbers because we are a very poor county, and poverty is directly tied to this problem. So, I mean, there are a lot of things we can do, but until we start addressing the poverty, we can pull some people up, but we're, working on our economy too, because that's really at the root of the problem. I mean, we can help some people who've fallen to it, but, like Carrie said, we can't just make a bunch of houses appear, and, we have to address it as it comes. But I'd like to see a commitment, from you guys, because it's easy. I mean, I know, in the Huntington area, you guys have you have a university, you have all these resources, and I think, in some ways you've done a really good job and have set an example to follow, but that community is nothing like this community. It's nothing like it. Our only big college got pulled and put in Raleigh County. You know, West Virginia Tech, it's gone. Now we have a bunch of empty buildings in Montgomery that are falling apart. As a result of another unkept promise to the south, you know, and so we really need the ability to, you know, we're happy to bring our resources and show you our lessons learned and teach you what we know through our programming. I mean, I do think our program, our ICE collaborative is something that should be emulated around here in this state. I mean, to have the only one in the state in this tiny little county should tell you something about us.
Oh, it really does. And as I said earlier, right, you know, we've been using you guys as an example of somebody doing it right when we talk about the counties, and they're very excited about that kind of stuff. You know, I can't make any promises to you that I know that you should have any reason to believe. And I think that maybe the best thing to do would be just to do a letter of income if you're comfortable with that. And that completely. It helps us out, it gives us a better chance of getting on the grant. And to have that, and to have the funds on top of it, but, you know, we want to be good partners. We know that the only way that this is really gonna work is if it works in each county. You guys have a huge head start on everybody else. Not everybody else, but, you know, most everybody else. And for your size and your resources, it's clear you're miles ahead of where you should be. You know, if we could just do the in-kind, then you're completely protected. And I think that would be reasonable.
Live with that. I can live with that.
And also, we would be happy from like the coalition standpoint to do a separate like letter with like our thing. Or if you wanted us to give you numbers for commission countywide, it would seem like we could match our.
I'd rather do that. I'd rather do that. So we have all of our in kind in one letter,
I
you
mean,
know,
I would send that to you. It's easy enough.
that would be awesome. And I think we can add some things because we have been,
Yeah, but you know what you all know, we know what we know. So if I just send you what you all know, then you guys can do the letter.
okay. And anything that we have provided, you don't have to provide us back. Like we know what we've provided, you know, we know what we've given the health department. Okay. Okay, well, that sounds like a plan. I think we can get that into a letter.
Yep.
Before Monday.
I think so.
I mean, I can send that this afternoon over to you, over all three of you in the email.
You have our templates?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got it in a couple of different emails. I wanted to just ask you, Dr. Franks, we've given a good deal of money to food banks over the years. Is that something that would qualify
I think so. I mean, we do consider food insecurity.
I mean, it's a
part of the
whole-
process.
right? So I thought that would probably
We
qualify.
were just saying the same thing, like, we have a basic needs grant of 26,000, I mean, that's back to, we're, people in crisis, you know, aren't looking at their high blood pressure when they don't have a roof over their head or anything like that, so we were chatting about some of the other things that maybe aren't like substance disorder directly, Sunday, but it is that.
Well, it could be causing their high blood pressure, not having a roof over their heads.
Well,
Mine-
everything that we have and then you all.
Okay.
If you have further questions on that, just send me a list of the ones you have questions on, and I'll forward it on to Dr. O'Connell.
Then it should be a sizable.
Probably more than we're gonna get.
Hmm?
Probably more than we're gonna get,
Well,
which I
yeah.
hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, no, that number is gonna be.
Let's see.
No.
Yeah, I hope there is too.
About 2 hours, it's 2 hours to get there.
All right, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for
We
having
appreciate
me.
it.
If there's any questions I can answer from anybody, let me know. I've given out my cards, so.
Okay, yeah, I have one.
Be careful when you drive.
Is that it?
No, the twig, make it down?
Seen him, I did send him a message.
Do you want him to come now? He didn't say when.
Yeah, I asked, Wilbert asked him over, maybe he signed in and not at his desk.
I mean, I could say it out there.
Yeah. Um, as far as that, we're gonna, consider the sheriff's department request to allocate some money for tasers and, body cam video. Their body cams aren't working. But other than that, I definitely think we ought to, get a group together again. It doesn't have to be in a commission workshop. I mean, I think if you get that group of people together and come up with some ideas and then present it to us in a meeting,
That's what I would definitely do.
probably be the way to go. Because you guys are the experts on it. I mean, I do encourage you to involve our 911 center though, as far as any kind of metrics or anything that you might wanna.
And we work closely with the 911 center and try to get data from them on overdose. It's tough.
I figure if there's anything, you might even want to consider, and Ruth can facilitate it because they work under her, but getting over there and having them show you what they're able to quantify and what they're capable, because they do have capabilities in their system that aren't set up that could probably capture more data if they knew what you needed, But,
Yeah.
I mean, it would take some training to get it implemented, but if you identified statistics they might be able to provide, I'm sure they would work to try to get them to you. But
And Jack, is he what you talking to?
Ruth, yeah. That's her staff. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, good conversation.
Yeah, it was.
We have to vote to send that letter.
Yeah, probably. So I move that we send a support letter for the Marshall Grant application
Ring-kind.
with our in-kind contributions in it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Diana's gonna send you some stuff and then I think we're just gonna add to it.
To their template.
Their template is in my, in our email. Yeah, and I think if you could have somebody go through your list and pull out the things you think will qualify, like the food bank and the vehicles for the health department and the 250 we sent to ICE,
Camp Sore.
Camp Sore, Just for Kids,
Day report too.
these ministries.
Anything we gave Day report.
Yeah, the vehicles we bought from Health Department Day Report.
I feel like the money that's spent on family treatment courts and adult drug courts.
I think that should qualify too, and I also think that, I think even Day Report, like the salaries should probably qualify.
Can you do that if it's already?
Well, the money we put in it, not the matching grant. I think the money that we put in.
But we pay the salaries of the staff. Well, I mean, technically, yeah, and that's what I wondered while I was sitting up here. I was like, would that count? And then would your office out, would the deputy sheriff salaries count? I mean.
Very specific to overdose. All.
Well, I mean, Day Report,
Rehabilitation, anything in the rehabilitation?
All of it.
Day Report does drug screens for all kinds of programming. I mean, even from family court, we would send people, I sent clients over there because they only charged at the time $10 for a drug screen. And if I had somebody who was trying to prove that they weren't on, weren't using. He made it.
Welcome to the park. There you go.
Good. So we're ready to talk about your taser body cam request. I'll tell you right away, I already know, and Anthony came in here and made a big pitch for you a couple of meetings ago for the body cams and explained the issues, and I understand the taser issues and about the reloading and all that stuff that, is a mess and it's officer safety issue. I'll just tell you my own opinion coming from where I came from before here, at the FBI and stuff, I would not do the cloud solution. if I were you guys.
Well, so, yeah, that was Ross Cypress with me, because he's pretty much the go-to IT guy for us, but, we, I don't know how long it's been since you was involved with, data, that's the kind of stuff now, but my understanding, like nowadays, it's pretty secure for that. Just about every law enforcement that I know of, that they use the cloud base for that, because it's such a, we're more at risk doing it ourselves than we are having somebody else do it.
Explain it to me, because I mean, my data's been compromised twice in the last year from people who do it a lot better than.
So anything an electrical surge could kill us now with the server we're using in that back office.
Yeah, but why aren't we using backups? I mean, to me,
We have a battery backup, yes, but if.
backup servers
A battery backup. Or.
for a server. So are we talking about a battery backup for the server, or are we talking about a backup server?
A battery backup for this.
Okay, so we don't have, because a backup server would be more secure than a cloud and would serve the same function that you need in the redundancy of your data.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in my opinion, I like that, I'm not trying to take anything away from what you guys are, what you're thinking, but in my opinion, and based off of the law enforcement's, perspective, just about everything is going to cloud-based. It takes the liability away from us and puts it on somebody else if there is an issue. So that's kind of the way that I looked at it as well. Just storing it, I talked to our IT guy, Mo, I don't know if you have his name, I'm sure you do, but he's against storing the data herself. He even will tell you that on cloud-based with Axon.
Who would control the cloud though? I mean, who is this? Who is the service provider for the cloud, and then who controls access to the cloud? What's in it?
So Axon Academy controls all of the data for all the body cams and the taser analytics. They've been doing it for years now, but all of the big departments, they all use evidence.com. That's what they utilize.
Yeah.
The LAPD in New York.
All these things, that's who they use. They don't use their own stuff. It's just, like I said, it's just too much.
So what other county has it?
But here,
West Virginia, what?
North County, I don't know.
You said New York, but I mean,
well, you know.
Well, he's given me an example of
He said large.
more sophisticated police departments that use this sort of thing, because videos are huge files to search. And just so you know, while it may have been a few years since I was at the FBI, we were using technology we are using in the private sector today when I was in Intel 20 years ago. So I don't think my data is out. I don't think I'm outdated. Like, I keep up with it. But I also know, all these people using the same law enforcement servers makes it an even sweeter target for somebody who wants to get the information off that server, because you're like, okay, well, now I've got two of the biggest police departments in the country who are using that backup. I'm not saying that's why we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that's where my head is at, because to me, if it's in a cloud, it can be exploited, and it can be, and I don't care who says what about their encryption. You see, AT&T just got all of its stuff. That was one of my recent ones. Veterans Affairs, my records have been compromised there. There have been all kinds of other ones that have come out just in the past few months. So, now the reality is who's going to want that data, and where are they going to get, and what's it going to mean to them? And that's what I decide when I make every setting on my phone, who's really trying to target it.
Only if someone knows what they're doing, they can use them. That you just have to be close enough to give them our network. And then you have access.
That's right. But
But
does it
that's-
matter? Because most of what we have is public information, right?
That's another benefit to this cloud is. Say. Only me and Twig have access. We're both on vacation and something dire happens. Wherever we're at. We can go in, pull that, preserve it, and send that secure link to whoever needs it. That can go back and look at that body cam.
Yeah.
Right then, you don't have to wait for 2 weeks for me to be able to pull into the parking lot and connect to our internet and put it on a flash drive. Say, here you go, Anthony, Here's that video you wanted 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, all of the functions that they offer through Axon, but you have to have the evidence.com for it to work right. So sending Anthony a body cam from something that happened last week it's mirror as it's easy as just logging in, clicking on it. You send a secure link to Anthony, he gets it, he downloads it, he does what he wants to with it. So that takes a lot off of him for that as well. But the biggest thing that we looked at when we were doing this was the editing. We were often always needed to edit this software for, the body cam for a certain incident. We have to work things out. We have to do all these things before we can even send it to Anthony, or a judge may order it. It takes him sometimes 3 or 4 hours at a time just to do one video, because he has to do it all by hand. Just simple clicks at a time.
This
Whereas-
capability, what will this do?
Well, it comes with editing software, so if we need to work out a name.
Or children's faces or whatever,
The only means we have to do it now is Adobe Express, which is,
cumbersome, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, that is an actual secure built into the cloud-based server and into the program that you type in minute 0, second 1 to minute 2, second 32, and then restart at minute 3, second 12. And at the end.
And that happens more often than you might think, because we'll have law enforcement officers make reference to prior criminal cases against the defendant. We'll have defendants make reference to their prior criminal cases. But I mean, things get said in the heat of the moment that are clearly inadmissible if the case goes to trial.
And does it keep the original video and then save separate edits, and you're able to download it in a file that's compatible with software that his office can? And the defense attorneys that get the discovery, is it like common?
How it works is whatever video you put in its own folder, and then you send a secure link to Anthony in an email with that link, and that's all he has access to, is whatever we put in there.
But when he wants to send it to a defense attorney, how does he get it to me? Like,
Once we send it to Anthony, he can do what he wants to do. He can
Put it on
download it
disk,
in a thumb drive.
he can email it.
but is it in one of those proprietary formats, or is it in a common format that?
Can we use VLC media player or Windows?
It won't even be VLC, it'll be Axon's player, but you'll be able to play that, yes.
Well, but defense attorneys aren't gonna have Axon's player.
They don't have to for that. So
Like,
once we send it.
MP4 is what she said.
Yeah,
Yes.
MP4, right,
Yeah.
or something that's, yeah, MOV or something.
That's frustrating for us as well.
Oh, it is, I remember, I mean, from that side of
Right
things.
now, ours only works with VLC.
Like the video surveillance.
I have VLC on all of my devices because of that.
The video surveillance we get from Walmart is proprietary, and you have to use their player and their system, and it is a royal pain in the butt. And now they provide that to us, but then we have to provide the exact same thing to defense counsel, and it's just.
So no matter who you send this to, they'll be able to open it up and use it.
Yes, sir. And on a second note too, if we updated tasers, which, we got the tasers from 12 years ago. That requires evidence.com. So we're only paying for it one time. So for both of those products, they have a stored in evidence.com.
And what does it cost to maintain it every year and then update it? Because I know that.
I'm not sure what the exact number is, but everything that I give you guys is the exact number.
That's one time though. I'm sure it has.
And after that 5 years, for that.
I'm sure they have a yearly fee. I mean, I
So
may
this
be
is a
wrong.
5-year subscription?
Yeah, but after 5 years subscription, you don't have to pay for the subscription anymore. That's part of that product for the 5 years. So, and I asked the same question because it didn't make much sense to me. But after 5 years, you're not having to pay separate for that storage. They said the storage for them was minimal. That's what he explained to me. That's the gentleman.
Is it indefinite? Like if you decide to use a different service, then what happens to your data? Do you own the data or do they own the data?
Have you got the contract or information you can give Anthony or somebody to look up to? Or can you?
I submitted whatever information we had, and it pretty much kind of goes into detail, all of it. He even was, wished to go out of time to one of the Zoom in on this meeting, if we had one.
Yes, I mean, I think you've convinced me on the cloud issue, but on the, who owns the data issue, I definitely think we need to make sure we would own the data. I mean, you need indefinite.
I mean, it's my understanding that, I mean, sheriff's the owner.
Yeah,
Our need for it's going to be somewhat limited because at some point that criminal case is gonna come.
well, like 7, whatever our requirement is, but but for FOIA,
Oh, yeah.
it's gonna be different.
I'll see if you got interest, man, we'll do.
Okay,
But as far as with the physical equipment, that 5-year contract, it's basically a lease. They'll renew. As far as the body cameras, I don't know about the tasers. That's more quick.
It's a lease.
They will renew, they'll send new body cams on the.
So you gotta renew the lease until keep the equipment then. If,
No, it's, that's what I'm saying. It's basically.
We own the product.
So the camera I get, I won't have that whole entire 5 years because as we all know, technology degrades. On year 3, they will send us brand new cameras.
Hey, I
Already
just
built
spot.
in. And hey, here's
I'm here.
I'm gonna
the
tell you-
newer, better cameras.
I'm gonna tell you about my POS system. I paid $10,000 for each POS system I had. I thought it was mine. It is mine. But every 10 years, they make an update and I gotta pay another 10 to 15,000 now. The price goes up
For another machine.
for another machine every 10 years. Well, nobody told me that. In order for it to be compatible, I have to do that. And I think they force you to do that. I'm just, as questioning it, I've been through this with technology. And I'm telling you, I had to come up with $30,000 for 3 POS systems. Didn't know I had to do that. Couldn't take credit cards.
I'm gonna keep you.
So
So he explained to me, yes, we still own the data, and if something happened to that effect where we cut ties of Axon, then they have a transition team that sets up with you where you're able to move your data to your own server.
for free or at a cost.
put him on speaker.
Hey, Dave. Hey, I got you on speakerphone here. If that comes, if some, like say something like that was to happen, there were like some crazy fees associated with that, departure.
No, we take care of that for sure.
So it's free? That was,
Sorry, couldn't hear that.
he just wanted, they were trying to make sure that it is free. If something like that was to happen.
Yeah, we would take care of that for you.
And there's no extra cost after 5 years.
And there's no extra cost after 5 years.
No, if the contract expires after 5 years and you move off the, different platform, there wouldn't be any additional fee. It's just after the 5 years, if you want to renew the contract with us, basically, with this quote, you get a hardware refresh of the contract, you choose to, renew. You just be renewing your licenses and software and storage.
Well, and what's that projected cost in after 5 years? I know the prices may be different, but just if I was to have to redo that right now, what would it be?
It just depends on if you need to add anything, if like staffing levels and those things, but if it was the same exact program, you wouldn't have hardware cost. But there's about a 5% or so increase each year on like product and software services and all that stuff. So in relation to the, like if you took the same quote 5 years from now to just renew, it would probably be going up somewhere 20% by that point, maybe. It depends on what the cost increase are each year, but then you don't have the hardware since you're getting refreshed hardware, so that would take it probably down more to like 12%. It's just like, yeah, ballpark, really.
Okay.
What's $1 million?
It all
About
depends on
210,000.
Can't put the dollars out there.
And that's just for the store, because I misunderstood you, because I was under the impression that you told me that after 5 years that your data increments were so little that you guys just usually ate the data cost for storage at that time. Well, I guess I must have misunderstood that.
So after the 5 years, yeah, in the contract, you have to at least renew the licensing, evidence.com, the evidence management software. You have to at least renew the licensing to that and like storage fees, and if there's any like
but as a, yeah. So whatever the licensing fee is that's on this quote would be similar to that, but maybe plus 20% based off of the inflation, whatever.
Yeah, it's tough to give you a good number on that, but I know that each year, it's generally about a 5%.
On the equipment, I think that's what we changed to, I believe, too.
I don't think it includes that.
Hey, just a reminder too on the getting new equipment. Now in that contract, we get brand new body cams in 2.5 years, right? That's part of the package.
Yeah, so you would get a brand new body camera, 2.5 year mark. And if there's an upgrade, like if there's a new body camera out there, like a new model, you have the choice to upgrade to that model for no extra money. It would cost you anything. You can either stick with the same model you have and get new ones, or you can go to that, different model.
But
do 99% agency.
And battery life is going to get us through the entire shift.
The battery life?
Yeah, let's say average battery life, I think you're trying to say 12 to 14 hours.
And your all shifts are 8.
Yeah, so the AB4, the new camera goes to, it's about 14 hours. But as you get through the shift, the other thing is that it comes with charging cord, that you can use in the vehicle. So if you want to like plug it in to the vehicle while you're riding your horse or driving around or whatever, you can kind of triple charge it throughout. Because if you're taking a lot of videos that day for some reason, it may take a little bit of battery tap just because it's, recording a lot. So you can kind of triple charge it as you go. But that 14 hours of battery life is with like an average of like an hour and a half of video recording or something like that. So it should get you through the shift, no problem.
How's that gonna work if the video camera's on standby?
That 12 to 14 hours, is that when y'all's tested at standby mode?
Yeah, that's in what we call buffering mode, which the camera's turned on, but it's not actively recording. And so that 14 hours includes that for the whole time, as well as about an hour and a half of actual recording.
And what triggers the camera to start recording?
Sure. So there's a couple things. With the taser 7s or taser 10s, whenever you arm them, it's going to send a Bluetooth signal up, turn the cameras to record, so you're not missing anything. You can set that as customizable on the back end, the admin device settings. You can make that, you can turn it on or off if you wanted to. The other thing is that there's what they call a pre-event buffer on the camera, so you can customize that as well up to 2 minutes, so that the camera gets the recording up to 2 minutes before you manually, or it just starts through that signal that the camera starts recording. Because it's basically recording all the time and overwriting itself. So if you want to make sure that you're grabbing, up to 2 minutes and 30-second increments, you can do 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds. You can set that so that, like, let's say you arm the taser and turn the camera to record. Well, you can get up to 2 minutes prior to that camera recording, backwards to make sure that you're, getting every part of the situation and more parts of the situation that you need to make sure that it's like a clear story of what transpires.
So it's recording all the time?
But it doesn't say.
We've got what we call signal.
So how does the data get to the cloud? And do you have to manually do that, or is it uploading?
So one of the commissioners asked about how to add the camera to the cloud. It's probably easier for you to explain it than it is for me to try to explain it.
Sure. One last point, just before I get to that, just to make sure I hit it, is there's something called a signal sidearm, which isn't in this quote, but you could purchase them if you want to in the future. It's just a little sensor that goes on your sidearm holster, so that when a sidearm is taken out of the holster, it'll send that Bluetooth signal up, turn the camera to record. So it works the same way as like the Dave does basically. So that's another way you could have the cameras like automatically start certain situations. And then to answer the other commissioner's question about the data, when you take, there's two ways to do it really. When you take a video and you stop recording, there's something that's called priority offload. If it's like a really critical incident that happened, you can get that video up into the cloud right away over built-in LTE and camera. The only thing with that is you would have to have a software feature on like live mapping software. So if you wanted to include that, you would have that LTE priority offload available. But typically how you do it is that you would go back to the agency and you would dock the camera, like after your shift. As soon as you dock the camera, it's going to offload all the videos up into the cloud through the dock. And then that way the officer can go in and, you know, tag everything, and they can know what's manage the video properly. One thing I'll say too is I know you guys don't have in-car cameras on this quote, or you don't have them. If you did in the future at some point, you can link up the body cameras with the in-car cameras and the router that's in the vehicle that provides connectivity to the vehicle for the camera. So you could offload the body camera through the router, you know, through evidence.com and the NDT. You could just offload that video on the NDT onto the router, basically, and send it up into the cloud. So that's another way you can do it if you had the in-car cameras.
What is the,
But I just wanted to mention that.
what is the router connectivity? Is that over the cell network or is that satellite or what is it? Can you tell it? Go ahead and tell him.
How does the router connect to the cloud? Is that what you're asking?
Right, like what, is it using the cell network? Is it using satellite? How do the routers communicate with the system?
The router in the in-car camera, in the vehicle, the router would use a SIM card to go over cellular.
So it's cellular.
Say, for instance, if you guys had, like Verizon is your cell provider, we would get Verizon SIM card put into the router so that it provides the connectivity over that cell service.
No, that's just for the in-car.
We don't have cell service in this.
But more specifically, like the body cams is just, our docking station will be connected to our internet here at our office, is that right? Whatever service provider.
Yes, correct. And then,
Yeah, I think the reason he's
and
bringing
then
this
secondly, like I said, with that, live streaming and GPS mapping.
It's gonna cost $5 from that.
Sends that unlocked the ability to use, there's LTE built into the camera, body camera. So it would use the cellular towers in order to offload evidence if needed. But again, that's only if you have that software feature on your, which is. Well, yeah, now, but if you want to add it in the future, you have to have the.
Can the cameras be set so that when the officer, as soon as the officer gets out of the vehicle, they start recording?
Yes, there's a few ways to answer that. One is, yes, they have what we call a signal vehicle box, which is this small box the size of like a debit card or something. And you can wire that into the vehicle to hook it up to say the siren or the light bar or crash or the doors opening, like say the passenger and prisoner compartment door is opened or gun lock is unlocked, something like that. That'll send out the Bluetooth signal to turn the cameras to record. So any body camera, any Axon body camera within like 30 to 50 feet or so around there will turn on to record. So you can get those boxes wire into the vehicle to make that happen. I think there's something like $279 each or something like that. So you can do it that way. If you have in-car cameras through us, that box comes as part of that package, and our team installs, you know, the in-car cameras and that box and everything else. So if you have the in-car camera, they would have that feature, you know, automatically through that package. But if you don't have the in-car camera, you can at least buy that signal vehicle box. You can have wired into the vehicle to provide the signal.
I kind of take it from what you just said, that box is not part of the package that we have,
I do. Extra.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's getting interesting now.
It's not part of the quote that you quoted.
Is that an aftermarket box? Because we already have those in our cruisers now for the current body cams we have. Our problem that we ran into is. Right.
Yeah, everything, yes. No matter what you get on that, you're going to have to go with Exxon.
I'm gonna ask, one of the commissioners that asked about this, how you guys safeguard data on the cloud, and so I thought it'd be a good idea for you to maybe kind of go over that real quick. Right, kind of the advantage of, between the two, like right now we're storing it here, how do you guys safeguard and what do you guys have in place to safeguard our data?
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, we have cloud storage. But we don't do any like server or on-premise servers for that. The advantage of the cloud is basically it's always available to you. There's no problem. Like, we don't have a physical server, so there's no issue with the server having a problem or having like a lightning strike or getting fried or something like that. So it's basically always available to you as long as you use that. And the security of it, we use Microsoft Azure, which is like serious high level, like Pentagon level basic security, so it's super secure. You don't have any access to your data. It's only your smartphone who you assign licenses to your evidence storage platform. So we can't get into anything. It's only you guys. It's super secure. CJIS compliant, obviously. And then we have like 3 different data centers. There's one in Virginia. There's one in Texas and there's one in Washington State. So, if one of the data centers has a problem, it goes down and clicks onto the other one so that there's no like lapse in being able to access this stuff. It's all backed up by different locations. So it's always going to be available. And like I said, it's super secure and only you guys have access to that data. Nobody else will, including that.
Anthony, did you ask him about emailing you that too? I didn't pay attention to your conversation with him.
I did.
Can you ask him about emailing it and to you and anybody else?
The contract.
What it says about the video?
You talking about being able to email video to Anthony?
Yeah, and Anthony be able to open up without Exxon.
Oh, yeah, the player that you guys use for your videos, what was asked, for example, we send the video to an attorney or we send it to the prosecuting attorney's office. Do they have to have special players for that to open?
It's an MP4 player, so it's pretty universal. Secondly, the sharing of videos is super simple. So on your cloud, on your website for your evidence management software, when you're on the piece of evidence, on the top right, there's a button that says share. And you can share that piece of video or a case if you want to with the prosecutor's office or something. You can share that really easily in a couple different ways. One, you can just send it to somebody's email. Somebody has a FOIA request and they want to see the video. You can send their video straight to their email address. It just opens up a view only webpage of that piece of evidence, and you can give them restrictions on what they're allowed to do with it. Basically, if you only want them to view it, you can do that. If you want them to be able to make notes on it or reshare it or stuff, you can set those settings as well. You can set up the prosecutor to defend with the like agency because a lot of because they're used to dealing with other agencies that already have it. And if they don't, our justice team can get them set up with the evidence.com. And so that they can use it. So basically, when you set them up as a partner agency, you can just click on, whoever you want to send it to in the prosecutor's office or what have you. You can send them over that piece of evidence or send them over a case that you built out, whatever they need to prosecute with, to find information or whatever. And you can set how long they have access to it. So if you want to be it for 90 days or 30 days or a year or whatever it may be, you can set all share it or download the audit trail or, do whatever they need to do that you can set the permission when you're sharing it with them. So it makes sharing evidence super simple, really fast. You don't have to like put it on a flash drive and bring it, send somebody to bring it there or anything. You can just do it all through your evidence management software and send it to your.
What happens if somebody subpoenas data that you're storing on our behalf?
He asked what happens if somebody subpoenas.
Storing on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like data that you can't give them yourself, you mean?
Well, that we should have, to me, the prosecutor would decide if we were gonna respond to certain subpoena, or if he would, I would want our prosecutor to have the opportunity to convince a judge to deny a subpoena in certain cases and that sort of thing. Like, I don't want an outside entity to be able to deliver a subpoena on your company for our data without, giving us the ability to respond to it. Like, how do you guys handle that sort of thing?
That's a question I don't really know the answer to, because I've never really gotten involved with that before. I would assume that all the data that you have and like the videos and everything else is nothing that we can access, I guess. If we provide the ability for you to store it and have it in storage of it, but we can't access it like legally. So I don't know if there's anything that we can give that.
Who's the records? Who's the records custodian?
So for example, we gotta get one of these body cams in the evidence. We have to go to before a judge or one-on-one, the custodian of the records or go to the test of, I guess, the authenticity of it. How do you guys, I'm sure it's been approached before, how do you guys handle that?
Well, we have a legal team that's dedicated to all types of stuff, just like that. So basically, our legal team would work with you in order to figure out what needs to happen. I don't know a great answer on that because I don't get involved with that too much, but I would assume that our legal team would just provide assistance and support, something like that. I know that in terms of like hardware and products, we have, obviously we have all quality checks and those things. We have documentation to show that, the hardware can't be tested before it's sent out and working order, working as expected and those things. So I know that we have all that information, but I would assume that, we would just get with our legal team and they would provide, assistance to you all on that, because that's a lot of what their job is, what the statement is, and that's for our legal side.
Do you guys,
I'm sure if that answers your question.
well, it does, but, do you guys issue certificates of regularly conducted activity to verify the authenticity of videos?
Like, for example, we do a search warrant for Facebook. Facebook sends us the information to us, but they also attach a letter. So it's notarized with things saying, hey, these records, they attest that these are an accurate copy of the records. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Or does Axon usually just put that on whoever in charge of the evidence at their department to come to court to attest to that? Or, I mean, you guys have a product all over the country, so I'm sure it's been brought up and it's probably been already handled before in cases, but I don't know if I'm making sense of kind of what I'm asking, or he's asking.
Are you kind of talking about like a piece of video evidence, making sure that it's like authentically captured by an Axon camera?
No, so if I want to, as prosecutor, if I want to introduce at trial or at a hearing, if I want to introduce a body camera video, there's a prerequisite to getting that video in front of a judge or jury. I have to satisfy the judge that the video is authentic, that it is part of regularly conducted activity, and that it's an exact duplicate of what is stored in the cloud. So the way we do things now, everything is done in-house as far as storage. So I drag Corporal Cyphers to court, and he testifies about the process of recording videos, storing videos, or Corporal Cyphers can sign a certificate of regularly conducted activity, basically saying, we do this on a regular basis, this video is authentic.
I think I get what you're saying. So my answer to that is there's what we call an audit trail. So if you go to a piece of evidence in your evidence management software that's uploaded through an Axon camera, it'll have an audit trail. And when you click on the audit trail, it shows you everything that anybody has ever done with that piece of video. So that's from, recording to uploading, to sharing, to redacting, to making notes, to viewing, to making a copy, an export, et cetera. So that audit trail is, critical in cases to make sure that, probably like you're saying, the chain of custody and proving that the camera, that the piece of video is authentic and it's taken from, that body camera is the actual piece of evidence. You be able to use that audit trail or, export that audit trail into a PDF or something like that, to be able to show it has all, I don't know all the technical terms because I'm just a sales rep, but it has like a digital fingerprint, if you will, that helps detecting people that this is, taking video and all accurate. I don't know how to explain that, I guess, but the audit trail will be the key to that.
How much more would it add to the current quote to have those little boxes installed that $8,100 to trigger it so that as soon as the door opens?
It won't be exactly on that 279, it may be a little bit north or south of that, and then there's probably a warranty that's with it in case there's an issue, send a new one. So it's gonna be something probably 300 each. I don't know exactly, because I don't have all the sheet right in front of me, but yeah, it's around 279 plus whatever the warranty cost is.
Does that include installation?
It does not, no. But from what I've heard is that these are pretty easy to install, and any like upfitter, even some people that are technically advanced at the agency are able to do it. There's a product guide that shows you how to do it, like step by step. And normally what happens is I think they just get an upfitter that they normally use to come in and do it. We can do it through Axon, but there's just a charge for that. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but there's a decent charge for it to have our team come out and do it. And I think most of the time it's a lot more cost effective to just have an upfitter do it. Because from what I understand, it's a pretty easy process to get fired in.
But didn't he say those boxes aren't those the same boxes that work off the cell?
No, that's different.
Okay, so that's a different one. So this is Bluetooth?
Yeah, and you connect it to whatever you want to connect it to, your storage alarm, your lights, your siren, your gun lock, whatever. It'll Bluetooth.
We have it now for what
We have that on our lights. Turn our lights on.
Yeah.
We need that.
Well, I agree with you. But I think we need a quote for it. I also would like my concern here is to make sure that if we get some frivolous civil matter come up where somebody's trying to get a hold of video, to make sure that the data owners have the ability to respond to a court that might issue a subpoena or something like that in a case like that. You know what I mean? Like if it's something you're using in a criminal case and it hasn't been released yet. I mean, I can just conceive of issues as the data, we own the data, but they possess the data. And most companies are going to get a subpoena and they are going to respond to the subpoena. So, what is in place to make sure, and he says only we can access it. Well, through what means? I mean, is it only we can decrypt it? I mean, is that, do we have a decryption key or some ability that we're the only ones who could see it, that even if the data was turned over to a third party, they wouldn't be able to understand what it was? I mean, like, I want to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you a great answer to this because I don't, it's nothing that I really get involved with on my job description, but, I can tell you that, I mean, Axon is the biggest body camera, manufacturer company, public safety in the world, so if there was an issue with that, I mean, I don't think we would have gotten there, and I don't, and we'd be hearing that all the time, so I would assume that there's definitely processes in place and support teams in place to figure all that out, safeguard of those things. I just can't give you like an articulated answer on like how it's done, just because it's probably a question for my legal team. I can try to find an answer for you. So if you wanted to like send me an email to put that question kind of, written down properly, that way I can kind of forward it over to them and see if I can get an answer. I'm happy to do that, but
So I think
I know that there's no way that.
I think what Commissioner Taylor is saying is if Axon were to receive
That's
a
another thing, yeah.
subpoena, do some sticking or
I got one
a
more
FOIA
question.
request asking for Fayette County Sheriff's Department body camera video, what would Axon's response be? Is that?
Because it's not our.
Okay.
Not our data to be able to do anything with, it's all the other.
So your response would be, we're not the custodian, try the Fayette County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, you would have to contact the sheriff's department.
I mean,
They own the data, we don't own, we don't have the right to do it.
If the FOIA request with subpoena goes to the Sheriff's Department, we all know how this, we've all
That's
seen this
fine,
movie
that's
before.
fine.
They're gonna call us and then we'll have the ability to respond to it.
Right.
I got one more question. How many West Virginia police departments, sheriff departments, or whatever you want to call them, municipality, whatever.
Agencies.
Agent, there you go. Thank you, thank you, Anthony. Do y'all provide this service for?
Did you hear that, Dave?
No, I didn't.
He asked, how many other agencies around West Virginia do you guys service? Or an estimate?
Yeah, I can tell you how many I, manage, because so I. 40, so smaller department.
What do you say, 16 departments?
Do you know what the city of Charleston uses? Charleston uses Axon.
Smaller departments.
He's not gonna have to. Wants to list what they use.
Yeah, switch to Axon.
I think if we could get his legal team's contact information so Anthony can get these questions answered. I don't have a problem with, from my perspective, my one of three, getting that technology for you. I think you need it. I'd like to know what they're collecting on the taser data, like how that's, what's being stored in the cloud from the tasers.
So every time we deploy it, it's saved, it tells us.
The data.
Well, it's more for me than anything, but if one of the deputies uses a taser and he uses it 5 times, it's gonna tell him, and it's all stored in the cloud.
So if the deputy's at a party off duty and decides to tase their friend.
You're gonna get an alert.
I would know that that happened.
If the taser is assigned to them, that was, the batteries were on the data there, so if the taser is assigned to them and they use the taser anywhere in time, they put the battery back in the charging dock, it's gonna offload all the data, so you'll be able to tell when, deployments happen and stuff like that.
Well, it might matter.
It does the same thing as body cameras do. So if you take the battery out, put it in the charger to charge it, it dumps the data.
But that's, the data is just when it's used.
When it's used.
It puts the data into that user's account. So it's all assigned to that user. If the taser is assigned to them, it'll upload all the data into their user account and it's not going to be, you can see, deployment or that function.
Do you have a point of contact for your legal team that our prosecutor might reach out to with a couple of these questions?
Hey, she asked if you by chance had a contact for your legal, so our prosecutor, I think has a few questions you may want to reach out to one of them about.
Yeah, I can email that to you. It's basically just legal@axon.com. But I'll email it over to you. So you have it.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then, I was just looking at Charleston, they have our tasers. It doesn't look like they have our body cameras. I know that, Campbell County, they have our body cameras.
And all
And all,
Not just, there. And then, I'm just looking at my list right now, it's better. So Bluefield PD, other body camera, Greenbrier County Sheriff's Office, Hampshire County Sheriff's Office, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Marshall County Sheriff's Department, Mason County, Mingo County,
Do you have several? That sounds right.
Nicholas County, yeah, there's a number.
Using the body cams or all of them are on tasers?
Charleston.
I mean, there's probably, at least
Everyone else is.
agency that I have is probably at least 12 or 14, and then that's only 16 to 44 departments. And so there's probably, a number more, it's just those are the ones that I manage.
Does,
And I would say a good estimate is probably like 25 to 30.
what is one of your biggest, who's one of your biggest clients in the US? PD wise, is New York, the cities, what?
New York, LA.
Yeah. PD, New York PD, Boston PD, LAPD, LA County Sheriff's Office, like basically all the biggest PDs in the country are almost 100% all.
And have you ever heard or had anybody when you're marketing or trying to get somebody to work with product where they said, hey, we're not doing your product because we heard that a judge went allowed into court or anything like that? Have you ever had any issue?
so you're talking about, you say you think there's about 20 in West Virginia you have?
You said you have about 20 in West Virginia and you only do agencies of 16 to 40, right? 16 to 40. Person.
We have opportunity to rest, we want to 15.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody other than 16 is gonna get it, and I may be wrong, too expensive.
Actually,
Who?
Fayetteville and
Well, Fayetteville's got all kinds of money.
Montgomery.
Montgomery's got it?
Probably Montgomery, they
Yeah,
do.
he just said-
You heard they did?
I mean, every
He said
time you see
Nicholas
a body
County,
cam
too.
video.
Yeah, I know this well. I know.
Well, they've only got one
Yeah.
job in Montgomery, so they can probably proof that one.
Yeah.
You have any more questions?
What happens if they break or need maintenance?
I know the answer to this, by the way.
Go ahead and tell me.
It's covered under warranty, so if something happens, it breaks, we call them, they overnight us a new one. So, you called it something there when we spoke a while back, so we're not, it's not one of those programs where I've gotta send you my body cam and then I gotta wait 2 weeks for you guys to look at it. You wanna.
Yeah, it's called an advanced replacement, so basically, if you need it ASAP, because you don't have any spares, then we'll just overnight it. You're not sending something else there about a year.
Okay, one more question. You said about 12% increase at the end of 5 years. Was it, well, I think,
20%.
I think it was 20%, but then he gave a deduction to come to 12%. Am I wrong?
Yeah, because we're only gonna be paying for the license.
Okay, what's the exact figure to renew the lease or contract or whatever you want to call it? Get the updates or whatever it is at the end of 5 years. I want him to give us the figure. Including the 12% or 20%, whatever it is. That should be easy to do.
It might not be, because he's got I don't know, in 5 years, we don't know what.
You don't know what it's gonna
what
cost. You
anything's gonna cost, but.
don't know anything gonna cost.
He asked if there was any way at all, kind of giving us a better number on what it's gonna cost us in 5 years after this agreement expires for us to renew our license.
And you gotta do something with the equipment. I mean, everything has to me,
Ballpark number of it, but it's really me just guessing. Generally, like I said, it's about a 5% increase each year. It's not exactly, some products are 8%, some products are 2%, but on average, it's like probably 5%. So I could come up with a number. And
yeah, I'm not gonna hold you to it. Not, hey, not no hold you to it. That
That's
was
an idea what a yearly
Yeah.
price would be after 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Subscription or whatever. Just give or take.
Yeah. The other thing we could do too, if it's up there, we could also do a 10-year contract.
It just please just give the increase total, what your estimate is at the end of 5 years to do another 5 years for 1 year, please. Yeah. Well, we gotta know what it's gonna cost in 5 years. We have to allot 50,000 a year for it in 5 years, or 200,000 a year for it, 5 years.
That way we'll know how much to take out of the sheriff's budget. to
Well, I
hold
mean,
for it.
you need it. You need a 5 and 10 year plan. You need to know what it's gonna cost you, to update everything. It's called managing money.
Yeah, they were just talking, I think, while we wait on you to kind of give us an idea. Just acting under the assumption that nothing's changed, the same amount of body cams, the same.
And if
249,000.
we're talking about just the body camera program, we're talking about data as well. The combined.
I mean, we had to have the storage for both, so.
Well, I mean, so the quote, I sent you a couple different quotes, one was body.
This is for both, this is for body, no, this is for the body cam meditation. I forgot you sent us quotes.
Okay.
Separate.
All right, you pull that one. After 5 years, will you be renewing and getting new tasers? They're gonna be on a warranty at that point, but, I mean, you could technically still use them without buying new ones, because they may very well still work just fine.
We'd be in the same predicament we're in now, we're using 13-year-old technology, but. We don't know what you're gonna have in 5 years, that's.
It's like if you put new tasers.
Now, the body cams is different because we get a hardware refresh and we can get the most updated body cams after 2.5 years, right?
Right. Correct.
And that's part of the package.
But what about another update 2.5 years after the 2.5 years?
Man, I guess it's like buying a car.
It's renewing the lease is what it is. When you renew that lease, what it is.
You have a 10 car in 5 years, 15 miles, it's gonna be a lot different.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot, like we do a lot of updates and add new things in a lot, throughout the years, and trying to get into that. Capability. Increase efficiency and all that kind of stuff, so that's why.
Yeah, I think she's right.
Yep. Definitely.
So 15 bucks a minute.
All right, I think we
wanna
think we
get
got
the
what we
fig- I want to get the figure.
You're going, oh, he hasn't gotten your figure
No, he
yet?
ain't got the figure yet. He's working on it. I got it.
5-year game contract would probably be around 220,000.
Oh, I wasn't off that.
Well, that's renewing the contract though with new body cams and new tasers. We're just for keep the data stored And to keep evidence.com after 5 years, what is that?
But listen, I don't think what you understand, in order to keep everything warranted, you have to
You have to
renew.
buy the new.
You have to either
everything.
buy the new, or you have to
It's
renew
just
the
like the
lease.
Motorola, like the
That's
radios.
because they're not gonna
And the
warrant
other
it.
stuff, that's not.
Yeah, we haven't had a warranty on our tasers.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, you're gonna have to, okay, $250,000, right? Every 5 years, you have to pay $250,000, whether they're new or not, is what you're saying.
That's to get all new.
All new.
Technically,
Well-
that's spread across.
Well, what happens? Okay, so that's to get new ones? Is that what he's saying?
That's for all new
Let,
stuff.
let me ask this though, like this is, Apple has a scheme that if you don't upgrade your Mac within a certain number of years, it won't take the new OS. And then after that, you can't use certain applications, you can't do certain things. So I'm wondering if, even though, you have the old stuff now, if we're using this high-speed technology, if you're not gonna require the new hardware just to be able to use the software.
Updating
It's kind of
stuff.
what I'm wondering,
She kind of asked the
I mean, that's what I've been
question
trying to say.
about, in 5 years, we keep the taser sevens, which by then there'll probably be taser 20s out. But if you don't, buy the new product, are you still gonna be able to have access and do, with
software.
software updates and that kind of thing? It's kind of what
Yeah,
you
so
get.
in terms of tasers, yes, you can still use the evidence management software for the taser side of it, even if the tasers are past warranty after 5 years, you still have access to.
Just like we do now with the taser.
In terms of the body cameras, you can still use the body cameras, let's say after 5 years, you'll get the new ones in 2.5 years anyway, but let's say they're out of warranty at some point or whatever, and you can still use them as long as they're functioning. And if they're not warranty, you might buy a new one, breaks or whatever, but if they're still functioning, you can still use the evidence management software of it. But you'll have to for the licensing, it's like a subscription service per se. You have to renew the licensing to your evidence management software, so basic pro licenses, and then the software portion to keep the software, or sorry, the software, storage component. So, keep paying for the storage of it, no sense. So you have to need to renew the licenses and storage in order to keep using it, the evidence management software. So the licenses are what gives you access into the evidence management software. If that makes sense. Necessarily have to buy the hardware or kind of ride with those as long as you want it. But you have to at least renew the contract for the access to the evidence management software.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, this hypothetically, in 5 years, our contract's done, we had the tasers in hand, we have the new, refresh, cameras. Without, just to say, for example, we don't have to buy new cameras, I can't imagine us not have to buy new cameras, they don't last, you don't get 3 or 4 years out of a body cam, I don't think we're even getting them now, with what we're doing. What is the cost is gonna be just to keep access to our data, we still have access to evidence.com and still have the light, that's kind of what I would like to know is after the 5-year period. What is that going to run us?
If you sign another 5-year contract, let's say it's the same exact program that you have. It'll probably be, my guess is
Just gotta get new ones anyway.
$125,000
Okay.
compared to like the 99.
I see, I see what you're saying. Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
All right. I think we're good. And if I need anything else, I'll call your email.
Is he able to get the contact with the legal?
He's on email.
Yeah, I'll email that to you, but if you gotta want to just write it down, it's literally just legal at Axon.com. LEGAL at Axon, but I'll email it over to you to see how we can email it.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you guys, I appreciate you coming with me and asking those questions.
No, sorry, it's kind of short notice, but I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Thank you.
Did you guys bid this out? Cause I believe this is one of those things that has to be bid.
So for Taser, there was a letter they sent over, there's no other company to bid it, there's no other.
Okay, so the tasers are kind of sole source or special equipment.
Sole source. Now, I didn't necessarily bid it out, but we did get quotes from Microsoft or, Motorola.
Motorola, the first one, whatever the troopers use, and then Axon.
And I will tell you that their price was a little bit more for just body cams compared to body cams and tasers too. It was like one of them was, I think, like $15,000-$20,000 difference, and that was just getting body cams and having to use their cloud. So we would have Microsoft Cloud on one, Axon Cloud for tasers, and then of course, that just makes it complicated.
Yeah, they were all a little bit more without as many bells and whistles.
So Anthony, does that satisfy our bid requirement? I'm not sure it does. Calling for quotes for something like this. I mean, the tasers are,
Commodities, the same thing, $15,000, which that would be a commodity.
Is it a commodity?
The tasers and the body cams are.
But what if the other providers aren't able to provide the service that we need?
Then
their bid wouldn't be
cancel out their
selected.
bid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you.
So if it was a small amount, I wouldn't even question that, but that's a lot of money for the auditor to say, I need your bid documents.
I'm not sure about how bid processes work, but if I was going to do the bid, I would bid the processes. I don't know if you're able to do the bids, we want tasers and we want body cams.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, they're the only ones that can.
And then that's fine, I mean, that's fine, as long as you have that bid document, but I can guarantee you an auditor's gonna say, I need that. I need those invoices and those bids and proof of published.
Can request a bid that specific.
Oh,
To where they will be.
Believe it or not, you have,
could put a bid out and say you want a truck with the low rider and.
Because it makes sense, that's different.
So they know anything in 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So they're the only.
Provide both body cams and tasers.
They're the only company who can provide tasers.
Yes, so the tasers, so unless we did a two different bids, one for tasers, which they're the only ones that can bid for it, and one for body cams. But I'm not under having.
I think you put it out for both. I mean, I think we just need to cover our audit tracks.
Well, because their software works for the tasers and body cams. I wasn't listening.
The evidence.com, the storage portion does.
Right.
It would be two different clouds if there were a different body cam
So for
provider.
example, we use Motorola, then we would have a Motorola cloud, then we would also have evidence.com.
Right,
cloud.
it would be more efficient to have the same company. That's for sure.
I
But
just want you to say
it just
that, I
seems
just want you to know that what it's gonna
It's not
cost
just
you
on.
5 years from now and put back money for it. Because it's gonna be more, if you just said a second ago that the body cams don't last but every 2 years, right?
Some of them last,
I mean, I still have my original body cam.
yeah, but your usage is not the same as, so.
So if you're gonna replace them,
You've been using it, so I've had mine.
I mean, you just said a second ago, quick, that it don't last but 2-3 years.
A deputy that's working in my
Yeah,
shift that's
yeah.
using it more.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, you're gonna have to replace it, so you're gonna have to get that another 5-year contract on at least that. So you're talking about probably at least $200,000 every 5 years or 225.
Well, it would be 200 over a 5-year period, so.
Well, I mean, still,
Still a lot of money.
if you're paying for it every year, you still got a budget for it.
But the thing is, at the end of the 5-year contract, you could get away with another 2.5 years. You get new cameras every 2.5 years to include that 5th year.
But if it's a 5-year contract, first 2.5 years you get renewed, the second half you get renewed.
You can get away with just the licensing and not get new equipment.
He's saying with a 5
Yeah,
to
no,
7.5 years.
So you don't do the contract for 2.5 years and then go back to it 2.5 years from that. Every 7.5 years.
So I had Wilbert unmute Michael. Michael, would something equipment as specialized as this qualify as an exception to the purchasing laws? Cause I know you've been looking into that a lot for.
No, it's a commodity. Now, you could, I don't think you mentioned sole source. I don't know if that's in your policy about sole source. But you could promulgate a policy regarding sole source purchases. So if this specialized equipment was only made by one manufacturer, you wouldn't have to bid it because it's a sole source type issue. But anything over any commodity, which is a supply material equipment, any commodity has to be bid out if it's over $15,000. So it's a cumbersome process, but if you bid it out and, you probably have to follow those steps unless you can amend your policy to have a sole source and then require some documentation for the sole source. Like what you did to determine that it was a sole source, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Something to think about, we can't afford not to do this. It is going to jump up and bite us in the butt at some point. And we're already dealing with issues where, I mean, I've seen situations where the body camera wasn't used and there wasn't necessarily anything bad that happened, but it looks bad.
Well, didn't the sheriff buy something and put it in the vehicles that when they turn the sirens on or stepped out of the vehicle, that the body cam?
We have-
Just the lights, not
But-
when you step out.
But Tom, the problem is the batteries are wearing down, so the officer gets through 6 hours of their shift and the battery's now dead. And they can't use the body cam. That's the issue that we're dealing with.
It's just the technology is evolving.
We just need to approve to put it out to bid and see what comes back.
And let's add in that box that creates that capability when your door's open, or that Bluetooth function that'll automatically start your camera.
And I can't tell you how helpful body camera has been in some of the cases we prosecute, like Doug Green, your body camera. It was a murder case and Michael went out earlier in the day and he says on body camera, he was mad because he thought his neighbor had set fire to his camper. And then he got even more mad when Michael explained, I'm gonna turn this over to the detective bureau, and he says, he said, I guess somebody's going to hell and somebody's going to jail. Some pretty good evidence of premeditation, but I mean, these things are critical in protecting the officers and in helping us, protecting the county by extension and in helping us prosecute cases.
No, I agree with it. I do think we need to bid it out. I think we need to, I would like you to include that capability that wasn't in your initial quote that'll, automatically trigger them at times and work with Anthony to figure out when that might be best. And once that's done, I mean, we could set a quick special meeting to approve it.
Yeah, and I think you ought to put back X amount of dollars every year
It'll take a couple weeks.
for this.
Yeah, so we can set a special meeting for after that's done. All we need is 2 days' notice, so, also, yeah, I agree with Tom. I mean, the sheriff, if technology this expensive, and I don't know what all's out there is what you're looking to do, it needs to be put in your budget. You need to budget every year to pay for the next round, whatever that's gonna be. I mean, hopefully by then, I mean, we're working on getting more deputies off of the levy, and hopefully the levy's gonna be able to provide you some money. In 4 years, the levy can be revisited if the levy still isn't sufficient to fund the equipment you need and the cruisers and everything else. We can revisit that when it's time to set the levy again, or the commissioners who were elected at the time. But for now, like, it's gonna have to be you guys budgeting it.
Yeah, nursing.
They're just competing priorities. It's hard to put it all in. All right, motion to adjourn, or, well, wait, we have one thing. I
Oh,
want to
yep.
move to postpone the appointment to the planning commission, because Josh was not interested in serving another term. I asked him.
Yeah, I thought we already postponed that.
We didn't. We waited because
kicked it
he was
down.
out of the room.
Okay,
So I'm gonna move to postpone that to the next meeting,
Second,
January 7th.
all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.